This is All Politics Are Local, America's number one political hip hop streaming service and streaming show. And my name is Jonathan Alston, and I'm one of the co-hosts. We are joined with Zaid Muhammad, who is also a co-host of All Politics Are Local. We'll be here with you for the evening, and welcome. The show we have tonight is pretty packed. At 6 o'clock, we have the Mayor's Forum, and the Honorable Mayor Baraka will be joining us shortly for, as always, a lively discussion and a good discussion. At 7 o'clock, we're going to be joined by the Superintendent of Newark Public Schools, Roger León, and we're going to have a wonderful discussion with him as well, talking about the new school year and what's coming up, what can we expect, and what are some of the issues that are facing Newark Public Schools, and how is he dealing with them. So we have a really good show. At 8 o'clock, we're going to be talking about political prisoners, and we're going to be talking about, and Zaid will talk more about that in a second. And we also at 8:30 are going to have DJ Rhino in the State of Hip Hop, and we're going to have our one of our very frequent guests, friend of the show, and Newark's ambassador to hip hop, Hakeem Green. So we have a really good show all lined up. Zaid, tell us about what's going on at 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock. It's called CurbFest. Something that we started 2 or 3 years coming out of COVID. And it's a way.
All right, I can't hear you. I don't know if it's me or you.
Really, mic check. Y'all can't hear me? Let me go. I'll go out and come back in. I haven't been on this particular line in a minute.
No, it's me. It was me. Could you hear me? Could you hear me speak?
I hear you fine. Yes.
All right. Did you hear me before?
Yeah, you were fine. Uh-huh.
Okay, great. And I hear you too. You were loud and clear. It was just me not hearing the way I need to hear. So
way back in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, we say experiencing technical difficulties. We'll figure that mess out, right? CurbFest, as I was saying, CurbFest is think of it as a block party for our freedom fighters, right? It's something that we came up with coming out of COVID to engage our base communities to educate them on the question of supporting our political prisoners. It started in New York City, and it's since expanded to a number of cities around the country. New York City comrades have a particular close relationship with Boston, so we've got a back and forth thing between our folks between New York and Boston, and other cities as well. Atlanta has done some, Washington D.C., Baltimore, other cities have since chimed in. So it's a growing way of sharing, community, but in the name of our political prisoners, and it's something that we do to wind up the summer season every year now for the last several years. So we're going to be looking at the New York and Boston organizers with Brother Shep and young sister Nicole, who simply calls herself Organizer Tone, who will be talking about those two cities and how they get down.
Okay, I mean that sounds like a lively discussion. I'm definitely looking forward to that, and I think that a lot of times it gets to a discussion about, do we have political prisoners in the United States? Who are they? What's going on? I think those discussions are always really important, because I think that we forget, right? I think a lot of people forget. A lot of people don't know. And I think it's important, the work that you do and the work that others do, to remember and to remind people just like how incredibly petty the United States is, where 30, 40 years after, 30, 40 years after knowing what happened with COINTELPRO, knowing what happened with like literally government framing people in our community, that people are still being, lives are still being damaged based on that. People aren't acknowledging the history. They're not acknowledging the context in which these things have happened. And you have actual political prisoners.
As opposed to too. It's a serious issue. And, and this is Black August. Black August was built to support political prisoners. So, we come out, we swing from Black August into the fall with CurbFest. That's how we get down.
That's cool. So, I'm going to start off this discussion. There's some things that we're going to talk to the mayor about and ask the mayor about as well when he comes in. I know that at the men's meeting, he was talking about national politics and talking about the ways and why we should support Kamala Harris. He also is running for governor, and he unveiled some things that are messages about important policy programs that he wants to push as well as a governor. And I think that the gist of it really is, I've heard a lot of discussions, man, And there are a lot of discussions by people we know, right? Like not just one, but multiple people that we know that are either refusing to support Kamala Harris or actively supporting Trump, right? And the arguments go like she was a prosecutor, she put black men in jail, and what she's advocating for isn't in our interest. She does not support progressive policies. She supports policies that could lock us up, put us away, etc. Now, Zaid, you are an activist. You care about actual laws that are passed that help people. Talk to me. What is it that you? It seems like taking a guess that you would disagree
It's
with.
it's sickening, quite frankly, to see brothers, harp on something that puts them to the right of Kamala Harris, as opposed to dealing with some really real issues that may put us to the left of Kamala Harris. I'm not singing sister's song either, right? The continuity of the genocide in Gaza is horrific and totally unprecedented. And that's the Achilles heel of the Democratic Party. And if they don't address it, there's a whole faction of folks who would be naturally inclined to seize this historical moment with this sister, and they'll miss that moment if they don't straighten that out. So I'm just sending that as a warning to that. Now, at the same time, there's a huge difference between her and that knucklehead and that agenda that knucklehead is bringing from the right. And folks need to be real clear about that, right? So I'm definitely among those who say Trump that must be defeated, but my criticism of sister come from the left and not from the right, right? And that's so I'm hoping that that tension that exists between those of us who are in that wave of folks who I'm going to call uncommitted, right? And this new space that we're in with the Democratic Party because of the emergence of her campaign, that there is some place for recognition and resolution, right? It's going to be tested just with this next week, right? Where are we going to be next week? Chicago, like where we were in Chicago in 1968. 1968, the police were brutally weaponized to put down the anti-war movement against Vietnam. And we have a similar dynamic playing out against the Palestinian solidarity movement. It could be a disaster if folks do not face this contradiction, get on and seek some reconciliation. And I'm hoping cooler heads prevail. But it's we're at a tipping point either way on both sides of this argument, right? In the end, I say Trump must be defeated, right? This contradiction that is right in front of everybody's faces and that is isolated the United States and world opinion is a problem. It's a real problem that needs to be faced.
Now, Zaid, man, like I hear what you're saying, right? I hear what you're saying, but what you're saying really sounds to me like we have to vote for the lesser of two evils. Is that the argument you're making about Harris?
I hate that.
Because it sounds like you're making that argument, right? The way you were couching the argument. No, but
using that language.
Right, but the way you were couching that argument, it's, well, Trump would demolish us, but Harris would only beat us a little bit, right? Is that really the argument you're making? Like, I would make a different argument, man. Like, I'm slow having this discussion.
Give me some different language.
The way that you are couching it is very different, right now, right, than possibly the conversation or at least the brief text conversation with activists that we both respect highly, like Maria Lopez, right? And
He's more practical than I am.
Right, of the Ironbound.
More practical, and I appreciate her being practical because that's something that her generation, and it's her. I'm so proud of them. But this whole thing is in the balance with their generation.
But let me just say that, like with her, and I would even dare say with Larry Ham, right? And I thought with you that you would look at very specific things that the Biden administration did that were very positive.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like
The,
as in
the,
lesser of two evils
yeah,
means right,
yeah.
and the lesser of two evils conversation
The foreign
means
policy thing is
right, but the lesser of two evils, right? When you couch it that way, when you're like, look, the Biden administration is genocide light versus full on genocide, that makes me stay home, right? That's lesser of two evils. Why am I going to vote for one evil, right?
I'm
When
not telling anybody to stay home.
even though you're not telling everyone to stay home, the argument that's being made, right? There are two types of arguments being made, and I think you're right, right? There's one that's to the left of Harris, that would be the lesser of two evils. I ain't voting for no evil, right? I see what they've done on Palestine. I've seen what there might be other issues. Like they look at her past as a prosecutor, and they'll pick certain things that look. I don't care what good she did. She did certain bad on an issue that is the equivalent of modern day slavery. You can't say you were like a moderate slaveholder, right? Like, and they make that argument, and they say lesser of two evils is evil. Don't get my support. Kick rocks, die in the street. You need my vote. Well, do better. And I don't really care. The other part, right, is, and this is something I don't understand. I don't understand Black men making the criticism of Harris and then say they're going to vote for Trump. Because in every issue, he is much better than Trump, right? Like if you're going to compare, if it's I'm going to stay home, then we can talk about that, and we can talk about the positive things that were done, that activists, right, like who deal with the environment, who deal with police brutality, and who deal with issues that are very practical, but will like definitely have helped our community, right? And so let's just look at this in these two areas, right? Like the area of people who are coming in from the left, who I think is a much more, a much more, it needs a lot more detail, right? And I don't think a lesser of two evils argument that you're making is good enough for them, right? Like I think that when you're talking, if the issue is Palestine and you're like lesser of two evils and genocide light versus genocide major, there's no such thing as genocide light, right? Genocide is genocide. There's no genocide light. So if it's that, then you are making effectively the argument to stay home. Even though you're not saying stay home, you are saying stay home, right? Because I don't know how I could vote for genocide light, right? You say it's genocide light, but still vote for Harris because the other genocide would be worse.
Here's the rub, and I go back to '68 on several fronts because the parallels just really are right in our face, right? This is the time because of the far in your face fascist right threat that there should be a left coming together, right? This continued deluge of destruction is shattering the possibility for that conversation and reconciliation to take place, right? And that's what happened in '68, right? And the weaponization of that wing that's looking for peace, ceasefire, and respect for the idea of self-determination for the Palestinian people, right? They are now being targeted by the police. And just opened up talking about political prisoners, we have the scepter of new political prisoners on the horizon as a consequence of the weaponizing of this kind of thing. Let's understand too, September 3rd, a bunch of us are going to be in St. Petersburg, Florida, to support the Uhuru Three activists who have been targeted by the federal government.
And that's under Biden, right? That would be under Biden.
Right? And are facing 10 to 15 years. And the charges are as bogus as I'll get it. I can't think of anything more bogus than what these comrades are facing, right? And you know, we are building, trying to, in a very earnest way, build genuine, you know, full-fledged support for them. And that's, you know, and it's that you know, that space that is going this way instead of coming this way. You know, it's a really, really dangerous time. This is a tipping point. 68. Some of us, you know, I mean, I was, you know, very young in 68, but even everything that was going on, you know, that the loss of that wing of young people, black, brown, and white, by the way, right, wound up giving the White House to Richard Nixon, and Richard Nixon, true to what's happening with like Trump, took the country further to the right, right? So, you know, Democrats, you know, let me know how to mess up a good party when they want to. And I'll go even further. You know about detail. Let's go back to when the tall brother, whose birthday is 10 days from mine, got into the White House for the first time, right? Mr. Obama, right? There was several things that he could have done right away to expand the base of the Democratic Party to include the very people we're talking about. He actually made a right turn on immigration, right? You know, a son of immigrants himself made a right turn on immigration and played Democratic Party central conservatism and failed to grow the base of the party and lost the Congress within 2 years. He wound up doing hardly anything, and according to his original agenda. So Democrats got to learn from the mistakes of their own history if they want to pull this thing off. So this is just an old head trying to give them some warning.
So when you're like, hey, right, you are making an argument that sounds, dare I say, practical. Now, that's not a lesser of two evils argument there, right? But well, let me take it back. It does sound like a lesser of two evils argument, right? Because you actually said if we break it up, we won't have as much. If we don't break it up, we'll have right-wing policies like Obama on immigration, right? And on immigration, the pushback. Obama deported more people than anyone in history.
My
right?
point exactly.
However, like he also created the category of dreamers. And when he did deportations, generally, he started and prioritized people who had broken the law. So they wouldn't do random roundups in order to, or at least my understanding of Obama's policy and the large amount of deportations that he did, it was with people who were mixed up with the criminal justice system. If you're mixed up with the criminal justice system and you were undocumented, you are going to be deported as a priority. And they made that as a priority of deportation in order to have and prioritize not going after dreamers, kids who were in school, right? Like literally giving safe access there. So he took people who actually were involved in the criminal justice system, and it's controversial in terms of, well, what were they involved for, right? Were they all violent crimes? Were they? So there's a lot of debate on that side in terms of that. But that generally was the priority. The priority was we, by law, have to deport people who are illegally, but we will prioritize. And we'll prioritize based on, are you here, or when you are here, are you caught up in the criminal justice system? Like, is there a domestic violence charge? Are there things like that? And those would be priority for deportation. Like if you're in trouble with the law, you would be deported. If you weren't in trouble with the law, they really wouldn't care, right? They would not be targeted. They're not these roundups. They don't go to neighborhoods and just start waiting for you. Like generally that did not happen under the Obama administration in terms of deportations. So even there, right? Like unless you're making an argument that there should be open borders, and are you making that argument that there should be open borders?
Actually, several things. There are two pieces that we want to add to this, and I hear you a thousandfold, right? Because I voted for Smooth both times too. You know,
Smooth, okay.
Yeah, I'm just trying to be, you know, folks call it, you know what I'm saying, right?
Easy, right, right.
the enlightened, and this all comes back to U.S. foreign policy, right? And the United States as an empire. Monroe Doctrine imperialism of the Americas needs to be totally thrown into the garbage. They're not. People are coming to the United States from countries that have been torn apart by the United States supporting anti-democratic governments that were fascistic to their populations for the most part, right? So they're fleeing from poverty and repression that the United States, in many respects, has subsidized because it fits the Monroe Doctrine notion of who the kind of governments they want to have in place in Latin America, right? But if they took a step back and said, the world has changed a lot, and there's not a threat to the security of the United States anywhere close to the Americas, right? Why can't we do some real things to help stabilize those very same countries and move them closer to more, stable notions of democracy, right?
But actually, that is.
To that question. Then we got to go another step further.
But Zaid, just briefly, what you just described is current foreign policy, right? Like that was specifically what Harris was supposed to be in charge of, right? Was what are the long-term problems with like immigration and things that what are the why do people come here? What is the root? Like literally, she was charged with what are the root cause of the immigration process in terms of poverty, political government, and what can you do to try to alleviate that? Like that literally was supposed to be their policy, of trying to deal with that. And they said that they had some long-term things that have eased that, right? Like in terms of giving funding to governments, et cetera. So what do you say to that?
They ain't done it. It's performative politics. They simply haven't done it, right? And the other piece, there are two other pieces to that, right? There is this continued obsession with strangling anything that has an identity ideologically that's to the left of the United States, even though they've been democratic. Venezuela and Cuba are huge examples of what I'm talking about, right? The United States, there's the playbook that you see in the mainstream media about Venezuela is the same thing that Trump did around January 6th.
Right.
Meanwhile, I don't know if folks realize that we had folks from the United States serve as observers of the Venezuelan election. The last 3 Venezuelan elections, National Lawyers Guild, for instance, right, said not only were those elections legitimate, they were some of the best and most participatory democratic elections in recent years that they've seen among other elections.
But not this one, though, right? Not the current one.
In mainstream media, because mainstream media is tied to the old doctrine, right?
But you're not talking about the current election, right? You're talking about the other ones.
Yeah. So I mean, because people are coming from Venezuela because of the Venezuela is, that there's a real sharp right-left tension, and it's a difficult space to be. It's a difficult space to be in. Although there's been some incredible resilience that the Venezuelan people have shown in spite of the hostility that they're facing internally and externally from the United States, right? And then of course we go to Africa. Under Mr. Obama, there's the creation of AFRICOM. There's a larger military presence in Africa than ever before. It has made not a single difference whatsoever in terms of helping the African continent help itself. And the takedown of Muammar Gaddafi in Libya as a gimme to Hillary Clinton and her run to the White House was an abomination that has curried disfavor, from people who would naturally be inclined to support a Democratic Party or this candidate. But just there, it's real.
So, Zaid, you're right in terms of under the Obama administration, Libya went from being a middle-class country, basically a middle-class country,
most generous in Africa,
Right. And a relatively prosperous country to being a country that literally is selling Black people for $400.
Can't
Right?
make that. You can't
Because the government has become a failed state, right?
make that up.
So again, you're not making the argument to vote for Harris. You know that, right? Like we started off this conversation with
Totally
not lesser of two
understand
evils,
the
but you are
dilemma.
not make you're not you are making the argument to stay home. Like you just made the argument to stay home. You
I'm
you
making,
have
I'm,
not made a differentiation between.
I totally understand the
So
conflict and the anger that folks from the left are coming from because it's totally legitimate.
cool. So I started off this with you. You were like, "Hey, I understand." You said, "I understand people coming at it from the left, but they're wrong." Like you were saying they're wrong, but they have a point, but they're wrong, and we need to look at it. And people coming from the right, that's just crazy. But people coming from the left, they're wrong, but you have not made the case for them being wrong. As a matter of fact, everything you're saying is that they are right for not voting.
It's. Woo, I mean, I love the
I mean,
music.
to me,
I,
that is exactly why we need to
yeah,
have
the
you know,
best music in
mayor on right now, because
1958.
he's making the case of like a practically progressive vote for Harris. That you, Mr. Muhammad, you are not making this case. You are not. You are not.
They're making it impractical. That's what I'm saying. The mistakes, the lack of judgment, right? The genocidal lack of judgment of the Democratic Party. They're making the mistake. They're making a mistake. They're making a huge mistake. And it's
vote for him. So why vote for him?
Moral. There's no moral.
But Zaid, why vote for them? Like you are literally making the argument. Like it's like you just don't want to say what I know you believe, right? Like you do not believe that we should stay home. You believe en masse that we should vote for Harris and work and fight. And the things that you have not made even one case where the Biden administration has done positive things.
Domestically, they've been good. Look, my child has been in the White House under Joe Biden. My child has been in the White House under Joe Biden. Not once.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
I'm talking about, now full disclosure, I'm talking about Keisha Yuri, right? Okay. People who work that we have done right here in this town, original groundbreaking work that we have done in what we call community-based violence intervention is a national story, getting all kinds of attention. Newark is getting all kinds of attention, and it's one of the places where the Biden administration has bought in, and that is correct. And and if they mess around and blow this election, it's ground we will lose with the other knuckleheads coming in. Right now, let me say this also: the national landscape and the national elections is not just the presidential election. One of the things that we definitely need to be focused, this is all politics local, right? Is on the congressional front, grow the progressive base from the left. That's something that can absolutely be done without reservation, right? Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, right? Ayanna Pressley, Bonnie Watson Coleman, right? Is a part of the Progressive Caucus now, is vice chair. She took a step to the left. Courageous for her to do that, right? This is a veteran, senior, an elder Democrat. You rarely see the elders go to the left. She did that as a matter of principle. And that's where young folks, on the left are trying to figure out how to fit in. Cori Bush should not have lost. Folks should have came out for that queen. She was the most progressive, most courageous of everybody in the mix that is called the squad, right? She is the one that absolutely should not have been defeated. Jamal Bowman's district got touched first before AIPAC came in and moved on it. I can see why he lost. Tory should not have lost. Folks did not come out for her, not understanding the big picture that they should have appreciated locally because of, blackface politics and how corny that can be when half of them black faces have been bought off by somebody else inside our community.
Well, I'm on. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. So you're not making the case. So you are making the case that the Biden administration was good, like not just okay, but positive, life-saving on.
Domestically, they're good. They're very good domestically. Very good domestically.
Explain. Make the case.
What I just laid out was with CVI.
CBI. What is CBI?
Yeah, community violence-based intervention. We still have Social Security.
What about the Attorney General and police brutality and the people who are working in the Justice Department?
The Justice Department is helpful, and it's a space. Justice Department created an Office of Violence Prevention, inspired by Newark, New Jersey. The Justice Department. Justice Department need to leave the Uhuru 3 the fuck. I'm cussing, my bad. They need to leave the Uhuru 3 the hell alone, right? But that's how crazy and schizophrenic this place called the U.S. government can be. They can do some incredible things in one space and do some idiotically violent, harmful things on another, and represent the same space. It's just why? 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 Omali Ayeshatella is about to be 83 years old. Penny Hess is 77. Penny Hess is the white woman who organized white folks in the 80s to come out for reparations. Why are you trying to throw her in jail? Really? I mean, come on. It is like, it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous.
Who are the people in the Justice Department? There were assistant attorney generals or assistants in the department that you particularly liked.
The U.S. attorney locally is not a bad dude. I've had, firsthand conversations with him, right? He's been active in terms of the overseeing of the consent decree that we have in Newark. I've been trying to twist his arm to come into some other cities that we've been working with. They're looking at Trenton right now in a very real way. There's a place for a Justice Department to do some very good things. But the Justice Department
what have you thought about Kristen Clark?
She's an interesting. She's got a good profile. She's got a very good profile, right? In government and not in government. She's got a very good profile. I'm glad she's there. Yeah.
And when you say good profile, what do you mean?
Her history of activism before she went to the Justice Department. She's been a solid player on the legal front when it comes to things that are of a progressive policy things in terms of I don't like to use the language civil rights, but the notion of important policies of that kind. She's always been a player in a very progressive way before she went to the Justice Department, and is still behaving in a way that speaks to her history, right? And that plays out in some of the things that I'm talking about, the Justice Department being in spaces that we actually share with them.
And so, what is I don't know, man. Like, let's say that I'm to the left of that. Let's say I'm to the left of the Harris ticket. You have said that they're genocide light and they create more political prisoners, even though they do some good things. I don't know what to do with that. Why shouldn't I just stay home? That's not an enthusiastic, rousing endorsement of why we need to vote for Harris over Trump.
I mean, I think in the end, I think most folks. Well, I'm trying to be optimistic here. I'm being guardedly optimistic. I think most folks see I hope Yeah, it was on the left anyway. I think most folks on the left see the difference between Harris and Trump.
Well, clearly not. Like you've seen these
Well,
forums.
there's differences.
You've
Yep.
seen local forums with progressive Black people, or who say they're progressive Black people, who are so turned off by Harris, they say they were going to vote for Trump. And
Well, anybody voting for Trump is not to the left of Harris. That's the right.
Explain, because they are trying to make the argument
That is
that
straight crazy.
Trump is better for Black people on economics. Like they were like, hey, I look at the cost of things under Trump, look at the cost of things right now. They are not the same. I'd rather have the cost of things under Trump, right? And they make that argument, right? It is an economic populist argument that they're saying, hey, Biden hasn't had inflation, Trump did not. Like, where do you go? They go, one is a cop and the other questions the justice system. Trump questions the justice system. Harris does not. She's a prosecutor. Talk to me.
I can't see any person of African descent going for Donald Trump. I just don't see that, but they exist. They do exist.
Well, we know they exist. What I'm saying is that right now there are people who I would not expect to be making these arguments. And Zaid, you're not. I'm over here just throwing it out, and you're not. Like, first of all, for the people to the left, they're gonna stay on the left because you really didn't make the solid argument about why they need to vote. You didn't.
Listen. If I want them to stay on the left, because we on.
We want to stay on the left, but they want to be left alone and left at home.
Black
right?
liberation movement is always
You're leaving them at home, man.
They never let no charge from the right. We've always charged from the left.
Right, but the left is charging to stay home.
Yeah. Well, it's tough. It's really tough for folks who are looking at this sickening, and they just dropped not some chump change on the Israeli state. They just dropped $20 billion, and they're bombing schools.
Famine. Most human rights organization is saying that famine is happening right there. People are.
Give me $2 billion. Do you know we could build with $2 billion? But they're taking 20, and we subsidizing what I'm calling the manifest destiny of Israel, because underneath all of this is an obsession with white power and control that is driven by settler colonialism.
Okay, so again, Zaid, you understand? No, I'm just saying, like, you are literally now again saying, stay home. If I vote for Harris, I'm voting for white supremacy and settler colonialism. That's what you're saying, Zaid. Is that what you're saying?
It's August. We got a couple months before November.
You didn't answer your question, my brother.
The Democrats need to wake up and learn a little something from history, or they could potentially blow this thing.
Okay, but you're still not making, like, you are literally
saying. I want my kids to continue to push from the left, hoping that the argument is ultimately, in the discussion, is ultimately had, at least, right? The thing about fighting big powers like that, right, is that you fight to win, right? The Vietnam War lasted longer than it should have, but in the end, that very same movement that was attacked in '68 ultimately led to the ending of that war.
And Nixon and Reagan.
Right? That's right. And the same folks, I believe at some point, this thing, and I really hope it's not too late, because they have literally destroyed Gaza and are stepping up their attacks on the West Bank, right? I mean, if this ceasefire does not happen, Palestinian people not only deserve a ceasefire, they deserve something comparable to a Marshall Plan.
Right.
That's how badly this thing is if it's to have any semblance of justice and respect for self-determination as we know it in international
Okay,
legal.
so
And
Zaid,
the likelihood of that happening lessens every day.
Zaid, I hate to say this again, right? But you are not, right? You are not making that argument. You just aren't. Like it does not seem like you're making the argument that is a pro-Harris argument. I don't. I am. I can. So Zaid,
Yeah,
Zaid.
I'm an old head who might in the last minute go ahead and vote for her to be practical, right?
Wait. But okay, so Zaid, you got to tell me which way it is, right? Because at first you were like, everybody needs to vote for Harris, and it's important. Now you're like, I might decide to vote at the last minute. Which is it, Zaid? Come on, man. Which is it? Like, I think that progressives need to
Something
stop.
else has to happen.
Hmm?
So that natural wave that should be coming out for her comes out. But the other side that holds all the cards and all the money and all the guns, right, needs to take a minute and say, just like there was the rhetoric of a George Floyd's a racial reckoning, right? There's a reckoning that needs to happen in the Middle East. There's a reckoning that needs to take place. That this policy of carte blanche, uncritical support for the Israeli state and all of the violence it perpetuates is not just a mistake. In the end, it's wrong, and people are being harmed, and it's a threat, a potential threat to world peace. It ain't just Gaza and the West Bank, Lebanon, Iran, Syria. Israel has taken some serious liberties with it being fully weaponized with the approval and the subsidy of the United States government. It's just like Monroe Doctrine imperialism needs to be reevaluated and
Zaid,
where I said earlier, same thing happening in foreign policy. Absolutely.
Okay, Zaid, I am not arguing with you at all.
I know.
I really am just saying you have not made the argument that at the very outset of this conversation, we both agreed. It seemed like we both agreed that like you were like, hey, we need to vote for Harris. What is the progressive case for voting for Harris? And are you making a lesser of two evils argument? Because a lesser of two evils argument is just not persuasive.
It's not.
If you're like, and are you making an argument that this is on balance? Like, I think that in order to persuade the progressive left, you have to make the argument that this is on balance good, right? Like, there are issues where we disagree and issues where we disagree. But on balance, here are the positive things.
The
And on
Democratic
balance,
Party is not making it easy to make that argument. And it's frustrating. It really is. It really is frustrating. Right.
And
If we didn't have a 68 to look back on and say, wow, this is where we messed up, right? It would, that would even shift the energy of some of that a little bit, right?
But according to really, right? Are you saying 68 was messed up? Because you're not making the argument that we need to come together right afterwards.
Instructively messed up.
Now, what does instructively messed up mean?
Meaning that the parallels between 68 and 2024 are very similar. Very similar. So now to move more towards some practical space and whatnot. I think the agenda of the current right wing is even further to the right than the right wing that Nixon represented, right? So as bad as he was in that line, what we're looking at is actually worse, right? It actually takes us to a place that puts us, where we were before we started making gains, right? So it's a lot at stake. The Democrats, can clean this up, or they can F this up. And 68, they effed it up. they didn't just shift it right. They blew Bobby Kennedy's heads off. I watched that on live television. I can remember like it was yesterday. Live television.
Hey, Zaid, I think your
I hear you. You're not.
maybe
You all right?
I think your connection may be going in and out.
You're not. You're not hearing me at all.
I'm hearing you, but you are. It's like staticky. It's like old AOL, right?
You want me to go out and come back
I
in?
don't know if it's me or you. We need a third person on here to let us know.
Yeah, let me go out and come back in. I'll come back in on the other line and see if it's better.
All right, yeah, go out, come back in.
Right.
But this is Jonathan Alston on Politics Are Local, having this conversation with Zaid. This is the Mayor's Forum. Hopefully, Raz Brock will be on shortly. And we are talking about something that I think is near and dear to something I think the mayor's advocacy. Last week, he advocated for voting for Harris and was very enthusiastic about it. And I always thought that he should definitely be a surrogate because he can make a progressive case for voting for Harris. And I was asking Zaid the similar thing, right?
Is it better?
This is better, but you're frozen. Like your picture is frozen.
I'm not getting any static or issue on my end. I don't see anything.
Okay, so maybe it's let's hope it's just me, and that you are, and that on my end, I'm just not seeing it clearly. I'm coming through, but it seemed like you were not. But it could be me. So, Zaid, you have not made the progressive case. Like Raz will make the progressive case about why to vote for Harris, and he will be very full-throated and enthusiastic about it. And there are a lot of different programs that they were able to, like, they were very much able to start programs locally, get statewide support, federal support in that order. So the federal government ended up backing initiatives that they had, right? And also imitating their initiatives that were successful, like the concept of changing private led lines, but the government paying for it because of the private.
Heroic moment for our mayor. Heroic.
Right. And literally such a heroic moment that the infrastructure bill included $36 billion to replace those lead lines, as had been done in Newark. And we know this is directly related to it because our late Congressman, Donald Payne, was in part responsible for directly going to Nancy Pelosi and getting that included. Like those are the stories that we actually had, right? Like there's a direct connection to what happened in Newark and what happened with the multi-billion-dollar federal infrastructure bill under Biden that was changed and influenced directly by our Congressman Payne.
Right.
And so that policy change went from the bottom up. I think that, like Zaid, I think that there's probably an easier way to just be, hey, Deary Damas, welcome, man. Glad to have you here. Che Coulter, glad to have you on. Doshan Farad, glad to have you on as well. Glad to see you all on. Julius Atkins, glad to have you on, man. Glad to have you on. So everyone who's here, right, man? But I think that the case, I think you can make a very progressive case for Harris and Harris Biden based on what they did, and it's real simple. They actually did help people with grassroots solutions to problems. They actually did.
Most of our people will fall in for that in the end.
Right. And
most people fall in for that because in the end, people are practical. Most often, people are practical with their politics or their perception of politics.
And I think that on multiple levels, right? Like on the issues where we agree with them, that's fine, right? Like they've actually supported grassroots programs. They've supported grassroots activists. They've supported, like if you were an environmentalist, if you believe that there are certain things to be done on climate change, they were very supportive of grassroots.
Maria Lopez Nunez, who you referenced earlier in this conversation, she's not just a legend because of what she does in Newark. That legend has been recognized in the White House.
Right. Like we have local activists. We have multiple local activists who've been at the White House influencing policy in a real way. it wasn't just right. So we're talking about Maria Lopez Nunez when we're talking about environmental justice in a real practical way. They were able to get money, funding, attention on issues that were moved on. You were able to get Keisha Yuri on the Office of Violence Prevention that were able to get movement on issues that we care about that actually save lives. We're able to get more support, even in the Justice Department, for consent decrees to be a part of the ways that activists on the ground fight on issues like police brutality. So there's been very and there's very clear that in a Trump administration, none of those things would happen, right? And we know none of those things would happen because the last attorney general that Trump put in place was Jeff Sessions, right? Jeff Sessions, who was literally has affiliations with white supremacist groups, was the just utter craziness of people in terms of just saying, hey, Trump will be better. I don't get it. Even in terms of you have I understand if you are Muslim, if you care about issues in Palestine and you're like, I can't vote for either of them. I understand that because it's a moral issue, genocide, killing, 40,000 people dead. I get it. You can't vote. I don't get people who are like, but Trump. Trump literally called Muslim nation. He literally had a Muslim ban as policy because he considers Muslims as terrorists, right? On a whole, they called it the Muslim ban. He literally said, "Here are these countries you can't in," right? When it comes to his policy in Palestine, he is not calling for a ceasefire. He literally opinion to the right Netanyahu. Netanyahu is a more position. He's like, well, until all Hamas is gone, they should still keep bombing. And that's literal. You have other members of his party who claim to be moderate Republicans who are like, the Palestinians in Gaza should go to Hamas supporting countries, literally supporting displacement of every Palestinian in Palestine to go to a different country out of Gaza, right?
Yes, that's what that is.
And so when whether it is the way that Trump changed the literally pushed to have the capital of Israel change, or at least the recognized capital of Israel change from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem in terms of moving the U.S. embassy there. There are certain things that the Trump administration on this, if you care about the issue, I just don't get why that is even the beginning of it. It gets to the point where it's like, if you are supporting Trump over Harris and you are claiming any level of progressive understanding of the world, right? Right. Well, I mean, you just need to admit you hate Black women. And
and listen,
I don't.
You said something that needs a conversation of its own, right? Sexism is not the sole property of white men. Sexism is the property of every community, and that's a conversation that Black men are not comfortable with.
And I am not saying that if you are not for Harris, then that is because she's a woman. If you are on the left and you are not for her, there are actual reasons because you're to the left of her, right? You're like, I don't agree with Palestine. I don't agree with the past, right? I get it. Those are very substantial things that if you don't get it, you don't get it. But don't tell me you vote for Trump, right? Who is to the right on all these issues.
And of course, we saw that a few minutes ago.
Right? He pushed them to the fore again after they were banned under, at the end of the Obama administration, they were banned. They were literally pushed under him, and I'm like, wow, right? Do we have a guest by the name of Paul that's coming on at 8?
No.
Okay. So we have a guest in the back. I'm just out of curiosity, I'm going to push this up for a second because I'm not sure. Hey, man, what's up?
Hi, how are you? You don't know me. I'm Paul Brubaker. I'm the new communications director for the
Newark Public Schools. Yes. Okay. You're getting ready for Roger León at 7 o'clock. Cool.
Yes. That's all right. We'll keep you to step on anybody's time.
No. We'll keep you right in the background. I just wanted to see. I was like, wait, who is this in the background? All right.
Nice to meet you both.
Nice meeting you too. Nice
All
meeting
right.
you. Great. I was like, well, someone has the back.
Bob and Reeve some sabotage. Right on.
I'm just a little curious. Let's just go, right? So, but and I think that like if the mayor were here, I think that he'd be making these full-throated arguments
Oh, yeah.
about why
Very
this is
clearly.
not a lesser of two evils
Clearly.
call.
And
Like,
he,
this is actually-
Baraka has been the most practical mayor we have ever seen in my lifetime in the city of Newark. I'm proud of that young man, right?
Right, and he's a practical progressive. Right?
Governor,
He is a
it
practical
would
progressive.
move the paradigm in New Jersey politics to the left. He comes from the left.
Right.
I
And-
want you to understand that.
And the whole point is that he comes from the left and is incredibly practical in ways,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And so Zaid, you weren't really helpful in me helping to make this argument, right? Like, I mean, I had to coax it out of you. Like,
Well, everybody vote for him.
I 100% guarantee that you 100% will vote, and you will vote.
I'm getting the street with some of that. Yes.
And you.
Yes, Sam, it is correct. Right.
So why not be full-throated with your defense of why?
Well, I am full-throated. It's because
You're stuttering, man.
because of his practicality. See, people don't, ideas do not, people, I'm trying to think of how Cabral quoted it, because Cabral was a great revolutionary who was close to the mayor's father, who liberated Guinea-Bissau from the Portuguese. I forget how he actually put it. He said, people do not fight for ideas, but for bread and to change their conditions. So and that plays out in a very real way for our people at the ballot box, right? So I'm hoping, back to your concern for our Trump infected celebrity taken brothers who that the reality of their pocketbook, their homes, and their families and their communities, nudges them to actually go the other way. Some will do that. There are always contradictions. Some will just be wrong and be comfortable being wrong because, they have that luxury, right? Some of us are just comfortable leaning on old ways because they favor us. And I'm coming back to the question of sexist privilege.
Right. And I think there's nowhere that is clearer than people who reject Harris and support Trump, but are coming from the left, right? Like if you were like a right-wing Republican all along, or you were someone who just was always in a Trump camp, it is what it is. We disagree. It is what it is. You are on that side. But if you're attempting to make arguments that are about race,
New Jersey, to the barbershop with the rest of us. Come on, man. Are you serious?
Right. I'm not understanding that, right? I'm not understanding that. And that's where I go to, like, if you hate Black women, just say it, right? Or if you have a problem with what Black women as leaders, then just say it, right? Because I think that I can't grasp how people can be progressive on some issues, but say they're jumping over Harris to vote for Trump, when on issue after issue, she is further to the left. She is much more practically progressive, went from everything from the environmental activism on, right? So, but I think it's time for us to get to our next segment of our show. And I always look forward to this segment because I always look forward to having a conversation with the superintendent of Newark Public Schools, Roger León. And we talk to him every year at the begining of the year, and it is always enlightening. It is always good. These are always good conversations about education. These issues are always important to me. I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher in the Newark Public Schools. I've been a teacher under multiple superintendents. A lot very contentious. The whole Cami Anderson surf thing, and I felt a little like I'm still dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder from that. So we're always glad to have the superintendent of Newark Public Schools on. He's actually a very good friend of mine, going back to childhood, and I say I'm always blessed to have people who I've known since I was a kid be at work as in positions where they're doing good things. We're honored to have him on. We are also having the new press person on as well, and just as that introduction, as he's getting the Superintendent León up. I have to say, the superintendent has always been one of the hardest working people I have ever met. And this is the time from high school on up, like known him as we both on the debate team at the same time. And we both, so we've known each other for years. And he's always been an incredibly hard worker, and he's always been someone of the highest integrity. Like a lot of people disagree with him over issues, and they disagree with him over many different things. But the one thing that is clear, he will outwork everybody. He will put his own health at risk in terms of not getting enough sleep. And I always tell him that you need to get sleep. Make sure you drink water, right? And he will do that. And he always believes in integrity and in doing the thing that is right? Like he's Newark through and through. And he has always been someone who is like, I love the city. I love the city of Newark. I will always represent the city of Newark in anything I do. So look forward to the conversation.
He would love to hear that because you laying it on thick for him.
Yeah, I mean, I do. Now, so in the meantime, we have a new press secretary for the Newark Public Schools. Hey, what's up, man?
How are you, Mr. Alston? I'm Paul Brubaker, and you're quite right. I just celebrated my second week anniversary in my new job. So I can tell you right up front, anything that Superintendent León says, I wholeheartedly agree with.
Great stuff. Good stuff. Welcome aboard, Paul.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I hope the boss is yes, sir.
As we await the arrival of Roger.
Yes, Mr. Muhammad.
Tell us the story. How'd you wind up hanging out with us?
Okay. Okay. My life story goes in 3 acts. I came out of college into the world as a teacher, high school history. First job was in the South Bronx, and I've worked in all kinds of places. My last teaching job was in Passaic, New Jersey. Then I got into journalism and wrote for a lot of papers. And now I do communications for school districts now in the best school district in the state of New Jersey and the greatest city in the state of New Jersey. And but prior to that, just prior to this one, I was working in South Orange, Maplewood for the past year.
Really?
5 years in the city of Patterson. Prior to that, we're working for Patterson Public Schools.
Wow.
So I'm very happy.
That's very contrasting settings. That's fascinating. I got to ask you this though, all right? Because sure. I'm hearing the history, right? Who are your go-tos when it comes to historians when you're prepping them lesson plans over the years?
Hey, well, I was a huge World War II fan when I was a teacher. All right. So I read a lot of Stephen Ambrose and people like that and, war stories and such. But I really gravitated towards first person biographies and everything. So, I really missed the opportunity to teach about the 60s and the 70s and the civil rights movement. Reading, letters from Birmingham jail. I gravitate towards the journalists that knew the neighborhoods that they grew up in, and the artists that grew up in the neighborhoods, that wrote about the neighborhoods they grew up in. And it's the kind of thing that I think, as newspapers are dwindling away, we need to bring back the columnist, the opinion maker that can see what's happening in the seats of power and translate it, to say, well, this is how this decision has impacted your life, your neighborhood, your family. And people, I think, have done that well over the years. I go to Jimmy Breslin, in New York City. My guidepost spiritually, especially as the 20th century turned into the 21st, has been Dr. Cornel West. He was my first.
Wow.
He was my first interview when I was a
You
journalist.
got to do something with that.
What do you mean?
No, our last conversation was about the national landscape in terms of electoral politics.
Yes.
We did not raise those players in the conversation, and I know Jonathan tried to figure out how to jump in on some of that, right?
No, for sure.
I'm very close to his vice presidential candidate.
Oh, is that right? Oh, no kidding.
Love her dearly, right?
Yeah. No.
Actually, his vice presidential candidate's been on our show.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. Now, question. There is a wonderful video that hasn't gone around yet that I've seen part of, but I definitely wanted to be public and I definitely wanted to show it off. It is of 17-year-old Roger León at the state championship, New Jersey State Championships, and he's debating Princeton High School. And it's the final round of the state championships. It's a public round. If you haven't seen it,
I have not.
You want to find it, and you want to release it to the public. You want them to see it because it will be a good. It is one that we use up to this day, and we still. Superintendent, you're still not coming through.
She's having the time trying to get on.
Oh, here we go. No. Am I taking the bandwidth? Should I get out of the way so he can get on?
No, we have capacity to have quite a few people. It's his connection right now. There's something with it. So I don't know if he's at the board itself or there's something going on with the connection or he's on a cell phone. But his connection's not going. It's not really going through. I would suggest even if he would use the hotspot, it might go through better because it's almost like this connection is being blocked. Sometimes especially if he's using. So hold on. Well, Zaid, continue the conversation and start having that talk.
I feel like I should give my boss a call just to see if he's okay. Mr. Alston, were you on the phone with him just now? I might have lost him.
He probably was trying to get on with him, and he's got just on me. Well, it should be on all of us. Let me welcome into the conversation our hip hop ambassador and the great Hakeem Green. Right, Hakeem, what's going on? What's going on, G?
Oh man, everything. Everything's going on.
You ain't lying. You ain't lying.
Yeah, boy. But it's all good. It's all good.
In the end,
the spirit, seriously, the spirit of optimism is in the air.
Yeah. In places where we needed to be, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah. Yes, sir.
I am so regretting the fact that this particular 24 hours apiece will find me so far away from Newark that I'm gonna miss it.
Oh man, you gonna be in Africa? You gonna be at the motherland, huh?
No, I'm gonna be in Cuba.
All right. Well, you know what?
León is from Cuba. I'm gonna be in his
country. Well, if it's not Africa, but Cuba's a special place too. So salute to you in Cuba.
But you got all the female MCs turning up.
Man, it's gonna be powerful. We're celebrating women for peace. Of course, big shout out to the Honorable Mayor Roz Baraka and the great city of Newark, New Jersey for leading the way when it comes to cultural enrichment. And 24 Hours of Peace is the beneficiary of that cultural enrichment. This year's event, August 23rd and 24th, all women lineup. We got Lady Luck, Roxanne Shante, Rod Digger, Sunshine Anderson, Moni Love, Lady of Rage, Yo-Yo, Maya, Asian Doll, the Baddies, Taseki and Big Biggie, Lola Brooke,
loaded,
Juicy 2 Times, Lady London, Leah Janae, Vibes in the City, Unicorn put together a great ensemble for us. You got the Queen putting together a powerful spoken word segment on Saturday. Nikki D, big shout out. She's going to be rocking with us on Friday and leading the health and wellness activation. Big shout out to Jennifer Cole, Lotus Yoga. We're doing yoga Saturday morning on the 24th. We got Shell and Lise coming through with a gospel presentation for the seniors on Saturday morning. You know we feeding the seniors. You know, it's all women. It's going to be powerful. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be dope. It's going to be dope.
That's the real mothership. I'm originally from Plains.
The mothership, exactly. Oh man, I'm biting it. I'm gonna be spitting that on the stage Friday and Saturday. It's the mothership, y'all. Baba Saeed said it's the mothership. That's what we running with. P-Funk.
Yes, Lord.
Hold on.
Yes. Yeah, I'm gonna miss it. I've never been as excited about the a 24-hour piece lineup as I have been for this one. You know.
Yeah. This is a big one. We took our time. We identified what artists would really fit the bill, represent in the right way. So we got some phenomenal artists coming to do just that, and I'm looking forward to it, man. It's gonna be powerful.
Yeah.
A big shout out to Office of Violence Prevention and Trauma Recovery, Brick City Peace Collective, Deputy Mayor Keisha Yuri, Kalisha Hill, Josiah, Muhammad, everybody, Susu, everybody involved with putting together this powerful event, man. Everybody gets salutations.
All right. Well, so we have the superintendent of Newark Public Schools on. Can you hear us?
Yeah, it took me forever. It took me forever to get on.
That was laying on you too. You missed it.
When are y'all gonna COVID passed already, you guys? Like,
I know.
Get out your house.
You need to get an actual space, right?
Get in your radio show studio. Let's go. What's up with this?
We missed that.
Fair enough.
All right, I'm sorry. I'm behind, but we're ready to go. Let's go.
All right.
So I got an emergency. Let me check this. I'll be right back.
All right. So we are getting ready to start the new school year, right? We had a lot of different people and a lot of different controversies from last year. We are starting a brand new year. Probably the biggest thing that came from last year were third grade test scores, reading, and the reading loss from COVID, right? That was the most widely talked about thing from last year, I think, in terms of actually student performance. We all know about the school to prison pipeline. We know that from third grade test scores, that if that's not gotten right, they could be catastrophic. We're looking at a new year. We're looking at things that are going on from that issue from last year. Where are we now? What are the new things that are happening in the new year for Newark Public Schools?
All right, well, that's a lot. That's a lot. Like, you went from the test score to everything that's going on. So first of all, I wanted to thank you and All Politics Are Local for obviously having me on right before the start of the school year. First day of school is the 3rd of September. Unless you're in high school, you're supposed to be reporting the week before on a particular day so that on the first day you're already ready because you went to school before the first day. So the third grade scores, unfortunately, as it relates to the impacts of a number of factors. We know that there are some national norms that are occurring. We are unfortunately consistent with those, and we work really hard to make exerted efforts to reverse this trend. So the younger grades are faltering behind the older grades, and we know that that our freshman class this year actually has surpassed where we were by about 4 percentage points where we were before the pandemic hit. So when we look at how the students are progressing across the grades, we see clear evidence that that's occurring, and we're already at pre-pandemic levels by 9th grade. Obviously, it has taken us a number of years to get there. As it relates to third grade and everything that's critical, we know that our youngest students were not in school during the time period of the pandemic, and now they are actually in school. So I want to clarify the difference between not passing the third grade test and not reading, because they are not necessarily correlated as one and the same. So we know that of about the 2,500 students that we have in third grade, we had about 286 of them who are actually having some serious comprehension problems, and we're creating intervention strategies to obviously assist them in that. As it relates to literacy instruction, well, obviously, students across all of the grades from pre kindergarten through 12th grade received reading assignments during the course of the summer. It's one reading assignment that we've offered them. Obviously, they can read as many of the books that they obviously are interested in doing so, but there's at least one book that they have to complete before the start of the school year, with a project as well as an assessment later in the spring, and teachers will review that with them when they in fact get back. We know that in our high schools, the students that actually have gone to college, which is a significant number of students given all of the realities that they have lived, have earned over 162, sorry, over 169 million dollars in college scholarships. So regardless of the reality, as the students are growing through the grades, they're actually improving, and our graduation rate, the highest in 3 decades.
Wait,
Our
wait. You said the
attendance,
graduation. Wait. I just want to slow this down. You said that the graduation is the highest rate that has been in 3 decades.
yeah.
So, like, it's interesting because I don't really hear that much, right? You're coming off some really good news, right? Like, some of the good news is that when kids are in high school, a lot of the test scores that you see in the lower grades that are low actually increase by the time they get to high school. And in high school, they're at pre-pandemic levels. You also were
Well,
like,
only English is already at pre-pandemic, above pre-pandemic level. The ninth graders did extremely well. In mathematics, we're getting there. We're at shy of 1.4 percentage points from meeting the pre-pandemic levels in algebra 1 in our ninth grade school. So in literacy, yes, and that's still a hard lift, because obviously as the students are in the younger grades, there's a lot of work that we need to do, and interventions to assist the students to perform on that test. But it's just one test. There are multiple indicators that we have that we look at to determine how are the students learning, what are their deficiencies, what needs they actually have. In the area of math, we're really behind across all of the grade levels in on algebra 1. So we have a number of students that are taking algebra 1 in 8th grade, some in ninth grade. Of those students, we are just shy of 1.9 of 1.4 percentage points from pre-pandemic levels. So if we were to have scored 1.5 or higher than what we did this past year, we would have surpassed the algebra 1 levels of 2019 before the actual 2018-19, before the actual pandemic hit. So it's a sign that we are obviously moving and moving in the right direction, to say the least.
going on this issue of curriculum, right? Like, it seems like this year, like I've heard about lots of meetings that are going on, lots of preschool starting meetings with administrators, et cetera, right? Like, and there seem to be some initiatives like Cornell Notes, or like other things that seem to be going on in literacy. What are some of those new initiatives that are there to address this? It seemed, and I'm asking because it just seemed like there are a lot of people, a lot of meetings, and there seems to be a lot of levels of that things are changing. There are new initiatives that are being introduced. Am I reading that incorrectly?
No, you're on point as it relates to that. So just a couple of kind of timeline points. We have an incredible summer program that we've been at some points piloting, at some points implementing at full throttle, that we know are consistent with the type of expectations that I have for the students of Newark, being a child of this city myself. So to give people a sense of some timelines, on the 1st of August, the all of the principals of all of the schools returned to the district. On August 7th, all of the other vice principals and department chairpersons that are school leaders in our schools, they returned back to the district. Next week, all new hires, anyone who's a new teacher, they return back to the district. Or they actually begin in the district next week. And on August 27th, all of the teaching staff members and all other instructional and non-instructional staff members, they report back to their schools. So as you already noted, we've been doing a lot of work during the month of July, and now in preparation for the start of the school year in August. As it relates to a number of the initiatives that you're talking about, well, we really know that we can't continue to do what we've done in the past and expect that things are going to get better if, in fact, there is not that type of cycle resulting in that end. And while we've been working really strategically along the way, my appointment of the new deputy superintendent, who has an incredible early childhood background, she knows instruction. She has a real great concept of how children not only grow, but from their developmental stages, how they learn. Then I've hired the new assistant superintendent of teaching and learning, who is the former principal of Park Elementary School. She has the highest literacy scores. Actually, she has the highest student achievement scores in the whole entire district. Grades 3, 5, 6, 7, 8. She's the one who has the highest scores district wide in the role that in literacy, in the role, and then in mathematics over grades, as well as improvement in grades. So she's spearheading our instructional teaching and learning component of the organization. Both of the addition of those two women has created a real powerhouse effect on the work that we're ultimately underway. As it relates to how we take notes in classes, you very well know that making sure that you have a organized notebook is extremely important towards success. And 3 caring adults reviewing that notebook during the course of a day is extremely important towards that student's success. So taking notes, organizing your notes, summarizing your notes. So Cornell Notes is the initiative that you referenced that would be entirely implemented
And,
district
and,
wide.
and is the thinking behind that there are a lot of students who are disorganized. I mean, I've been teaching
No,
for
no,
many years.
you're better. You're better than that. The Our students are not disorganized. Our students have to be taught how to be organized. There's a difference. Disorganized means you don't know what you're doing and it's a mess, as opposed to kids who are coming to school to learn. You and I and others might be disorganized. Kids are learning to be organized, and that's what we're doing with them. So
Mm.
our strategy is to take obviously students where they are, and we know that some of them may not be where we need them to be, and so we're providing them with why they came to school in the first place. Their parents send them to school so that we organize them, and then
Right.
they become adults that go into the community organized. So this whole work, the importance of having notes in order, making sure that your notebook is strategically organized by date. All of that is something that you don't wake up and go, let me organize myself by
But
dates.
still, a lot of
You
us are
have to
still learning,
teach our
right?
students that. We're teaching them that. They're learning that. So part of what we're doing when the teachers come back is to make sure, if they're disorganized, because adults could be disorganized, how to actually learn to be organized so that we teach the students how to also be organized. It's all about teaching everybody,
And
including
it's
the adults.
and it's also flex, and it also seems like it's not to be rigid in the type of organization, but to teach people like just the concept so that they can find their own ways of organizing. Is that part of it, or is it to try to
Well,
teach
it, it,
one?
it is to create a structure. So it's not to say everybody can do it whatever way they want to do it. You're left-handed, I'm right-handed. So ultimately, we write differently. The issue is writing. And so you organize your papers the same way I'm going to organize my papers. So the idea that every student is different is a fact. That's what makes us so incredible. The issue becomes, do we meet and how we meet the student where they are so that they actually progress to where we all want them to be. The goal is to move all of the students in the positive direction. It doesn't mean that everyone will get to the same point in time at the same point in time.
And is this because like levels of organization are prerequisites? The only reason why I'm spending time on this is it seems like this is going to be a big deal within the district. Is it? Am I reading it wrong?
No,
Is this?
you're absolutely right. The whole idea, if you were at my conference table right now, all of my papers are organized in a certain way. Why? Because I have to think through a lot of and review a lot of data. So the importance of that is so that we're making very important and calculated wise decisions. Education isn't about taking a risk on something. The idea that we may take calculated risks is an important point, but it is about a structure that enables people to then spend time on how do you not learn how to do something, but learn how to do what it was that you were supposed to learn in the first place. Sometimes students aren't learning not because they can't. It's not that teachers aren't teaching because they don't want to. Is that we need to be organized in order to accomplish the end game. So we're spending time prioritizing, organizing the student's notebook, organizing how they take notes. So that when students go home, my expectation is for parents to do what I used to do when I was a principal, which is do notebook checks. I want parents to understand that they can pull the student's notebook and see what their kids learned every day. What a great parents want is, at least what you know in our conversations that I've had with you, what my mom was always said, that a parent always wants their child to be better. So what we're doing is helping parents see how their children are going to be better. And so all we need are parents to make sure that when they get home, they do what I know they do now, which is, hey, what did you learn in school today? Now I want to ratchet up a bit by saying, not only, hey, how did you do in school today? Let me see what you did in school today. And the notebook will help them do that.
So
So
it's
the notebook is going to help the parent help their child even more at home.
So really, this is really how do you introduce a community slash village technique by formalizing and creating a template for what it's supposed to look like. You have parents now. If you have three different kids, those kids are bringing home notebooks that look similar, right? It makes it easier for parents to help check, or anybody who's involved in education. Is that the
Yeah,
reason behind it?
absolutely. So watch this, John. Let's say you have a child that's in third grade and a child that's in eighth grade, and they're both go to the same school. So assuming that that's what you wanted, and um,
All right, it came out. Hopefully, we'll be back right back in.
I gotta say, I'm getting a lot out of this conversation.
Okay, well, these are I like having conversations at the beginning of the school year because I know that there's been there's always a lot of thinking that goes on or at least I think that in Newark, a lot of thinking goes into what people teach, and I don't think people appreciate that, right? Like,
Yeah.
what do we teach? What do we learn? How do we learn it, right? I think that there is consistently an effort, a professional effort that often isn't seen, and that goes behind things. And having these conversations, I think, is important for parents and even teachers to understand. Like every time we have a new initiative, we always think, "Oh, it's a new initiative. We're going to have to learn this new thing. That's this old thing." And it's like it always, for as from a teacher's perspective, it's always, well, like, make it make sense, right? So so understanding the thinking behind a new initiative, and that it's not like, because as a teacher we only see our teacher perspective, right? And I think to some extent some good of the conversations is to be able to see it, because I think that from a superintendent you're looking at it from multiple perspectives, from not just the teacher's perspective but the student's perspective, the parent's perspective, because all of us are trying to help the student. And so at least we know that this tool is supposed to be a tool that can bring us all together.
Yeah, all I wanted to articulate, Jonathan, is that, so imagine that you're a parent, you have a third grader and an eighth grader, right? And then that eighth grader goes to high school, and instead of, oh, now I have to learn something completely different, we're developing the students across the grades. So when that third grader goes to the fourth grade class and the fifth grade class and the sixth grade class, all that we're doing is saying, these are the way we take notes. So it's not doing more, it's actually now doing what is definitely gonna help organize the kid, and repeating that every year after year. It's not something that we're adding to the plate. It's literally removing a lot of obstacles from our students, and they're going to demonstrate the impact of this strategy, arguably immediately and definitely over time.
Because over time, it's just a repetition of the same skill and the same way of thinking, right? Much in the way that we do in, I think it's fair to say, academic high school debate has influenced both of our lives and both of the way we learn quite intensely. And I know that when we learn to flow, we learn to take notes. It's a graphic form of note taking that helps. And I think it's really, maybe it's important to bring out that it doesn't contradict other things that are effective ways of note taking. It really complements it, because they are general. It is, from what my understanding, Cornell notes are general enough so that they are transportable into different areas, right? Like everyone takes notes, but there are certain fundamentals of note taking and graphic note taking that are kind of there. Is that an accurate?
Absolutely. And so part of the ultimate strategy is, instead of saying everyone could do whatever they want, however they want to do it, it's focusing everyone to doing it a particular way, regardless of how they actually take those notes. So the organizational aspect of it is what is super unique here. And what will happen is that as the students perfect their note-taking strategies that are taught to them and repeatedly taught to them over time, it'll continue to instill the same. Third grade is a teacher who wants you to do it a certain way. You go to seventh grade, another teacher wants you to do it a different way. This is organizing everyone doing it one way.
Okay. And yes.
So repetition, you mentioned the repetition of note-taking or organization, and how the question that leads to a culture of organization. Growing up, going to school as a student, I didn't look at organization as building a culture. It's like something that you do to just execute a task, or something that leads to the execution of a task. But then applying what you're doing to the academic side, helping the other aspects of your life to be in a culture of organization. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so the concept that you're talking about is the ability to learn something in one area and it then transfer into another area. That's the beauty of what we're supposed to do in schools. Our job is really to educate children, and it's not to teach them the social studies lesson, right? It's to teach them how to live in a society that respects and values their citizenry. And so, with the way that we teach children that is through agency. Ultimately, the voice that they have is super important. So, the goal here is to organize their writing, to organize their thinking, to organize how they speak to people, to also understand that ultimately, in the end, where we're all human and we make mistakes, that they're young, and part of their job is to learn as much so that they don't make as many mistakes as we do later. So the idea of the concept of being organized is beyond a notebook. We're talking about taking notes in a notebook. This conversation is so much more than just that.
Now, I know we spent a lot of time on this. What are the other initiatives that are new that we can expect to see in the new school year?
Oh my goodness. So, part of what's underway, we have a number of obvious things that are occurring. We have the obviously, as you know, our historic 10-year strategic plan. We're in year 5. There are about 8 components of it that are super critical. A lot of them have been at play, implementing them, and kind of moving the organization aggressively forward. So we're in a really great place. The people who helped create the 10-year strategic plan are the community members, and obviously I take this opportunity um, to thank them. I'm opening up my 10th school. As I shared with you on our previous show, the city of Newark, across all of the urban school districts in the country, has the highest growth of student enrollment. And it has, in fact, resulted in my opening of a number of schools. And my 10th one will be Branchbrook School, that is ready to open for this September. So we focused on a lot of the conversation that you just did on literacy. There's a whole new math series that we're implementing in our schools. Teachers will receive intensified training, have received training already, and those who have not will receive some additional intensified training on the 28th of this month.
Now, this when you mentioned the opening of schools, right? And we have been opening up a lot of schools in Newark. I've said in the past that it is something that is fully transformative. You will be one of the most transformational leaders of Newark simply because of the way Newark looks, right? In terms of schools, is different now than it was even 5 years ago, with the vast number of schools that have opened. A controversy with that. There's constant articles about schools not being filled and trying to sue to get back schools from charter schools. And there's almost an implicit accusation from in many of the local media or the local educational media about almost like a waste of resources on lawyers to try to get schools from charter schools, to try to hold charter schools back, and to try to keep school buildings that aren't needed because we have schools that aren't filled yet, schools that aren't filled yet, and we're building new schools when the old schools we have are not filled to capacity yet. And this is almost a drumbeat that seems to be an implicit accusation of a waste of funds to open new schools when schools that are existing are not filled, are losing population, or are not filled.
Yeah, so there's a lot in that. I appreciate that you reference uh, wherever you're getting your information from as educational areas. I would call them more as advocates or people filled with agendas more than anything else. But to be specific, so, one of the things that happened in Newark when charter schools arrived in our city is that the concept is quite interesting. They have a team that are the founders of a school, and that team then builds the school one grade at a time. In Newark, that's not how we open up schools historically. What do? We say the school is kindergarten to eighth grade, and we take kids from a whole bunch of other schools and just move them there with no rhyme and no reason. Historically, any school that we've opened like that has not or has had it very difficult to move the student achievement needle. The only school that we have opened up in Newark and filled it to capacity and it's done well was Park Elementary School. That's the only
Mm.
school in our city that we opened up new, flooded it with students. New meaning it what didn't exist before. Not students had a new building referring to. And so what did we do since my start? All of the schools that I've opened, we've opened it with the same concept that the charter schools have utilized in our city. So, yeah, if you're at Nelson Mandela Elementary School, the school is half empty because it only has certain number of grades. When we started with kindergarten, we didn't have first grade and second grade and none of the other grades because that strategy, which we've utilized before, has not been quite successful for us. So our goal is obviously to get the students in the school when we open up the grade all the way through eighth grade. So that's where we're at with the new schools. Anyone who says our new schools who have just opened up, Michelle Obama, Nelson Mandela, Sir Isaac Newton, yeah, they don't have the grades. That's why they're empty in those grades. In terms of schools that um, have existed whose enrollment is low, that's true. Part of the reason why particular schools have low enrollment because we have specialized programs in the schools. There's one school in particular where we have a program that the maximum number of students that are in that school in that classroom are 8 students. So when you walk into the classroom and you go, "Oh my goodness, this class is empty." Actually, that class is full because the only number of students that are allowed to be in that class because they're in a specialized program is 8. So
Mm.
our enrollment has increased by thousands of students since the start of my role here as superintendent. As you also know, the census of Newark, the numbers are increasing. They are high. If you drive anywhere around this great city of ours, you will see that there's housing going up. And those people, once they move in, are going to have kids. It makes sense for people to say Newark Public Schools don't do anything so that when all of these kids come to Newark, they don't have a school to go to. Well, that's
Mm.
not this superintendent. We are preparing for a changing city. And the change in the city is not so that our people leave like happened
Mm.
before. Our strategy is to tell our people, we're worried about your education. We're going to make exerted efforts to make changes that will improve. We're transforming the school system, not only for you not to leave, but for you to stay so that when other people who want to take advantage of the work that we're doing, when they come, they are here with you. And that's the work that we're doing. In terms of suing for a building, I want to make it very, very clear that the Newark Public Schools has never, ever sued a school because we wanted a charter school because we wanted to take the building away from them. So whoever told you that and whoever repeats that have an agenda that is not my problem to clarify. But for you, because you're a good guy, let me do this. In 2015 or so, the Newark Public Schools decided to sell 12 buildings. 12 buildings, some of which had students in them and had comparably nothing wrong with them if we say we're comparing them to the other schools that we have in Newark. Maple Avenue School, for example, is one of them. When I created the Michelle Obama School, that is where she visited when I was an assistant superintendent, and that school was going to be renamed in her honor. Well, guess what? That's one of the schools that were sold to the Newark Housing Authority for $1. Um, all of the schools were sold to the Newark Housing Authority for $12. I could have purchased those, but anyway, those schools were supposed to be sold. If you recall, Maple Avenue School was supposed to become an apartment building. They had 3 years to complete that task, from April 19, 2016 to April 19, 2019. The apartment building never came. And so we asked the Newark Housing Authority to reverse and give us the building back, as there was a clause in the agreement that everyone agreed to back in 2016. They did not do that. And so we sued the Newark Housing Authority and the people who were now the new owners of Maple Avenue School, who actually purchased it from the Newark Housing Authority. When we did that litigation, and I can't get into a lot of the other aspects of it, but I'll tell you this much. When we got into that litigation, we later learned that Friends of Team purchased it from the people who originally purchased it from the Newark Housing Authority.
Ah.
And so we then amended our complaint and added Friends of Team and those who purchased the building from the original owners into our litigation. Now, Friends of Team purchased it for students that are extremely important to me, because all of the education of all of the children in Newark are extremely important to me. Obviously, they purchased that building for students from KIP. However, when we did the litigation, there were no students in the school. When we did the litigation initially, there was no such conversation about any entity associated with a charter school. Therefore, there was never a lawsuit, and there is no lawsuit today against a charter school in Newark.
Okay, well, thank you for that context. One of the things that I've always pushed back when I read a lot of these stories from, quote, local educational media, it seems like they lack context, right? Like what they're saying, the schools are empty, but you're like, yeah, we only have ninth graders in there because it's going to go from 9 to 12. Or of course it's empty.
That's an even, I gave other examples, but that's a perfect example. When we opened 4 of our new high schools, we opened them in ninth grade. Yeah. It was a school of 800 kids, 600 kids. It's empty because it only has ninth graders. That's how it works.
Right. And it seems like that context is just nowhere in the article. And I'm talking about Tap Into Newark, right? Like that the context of many of these accusations are just not in the articles. And I think that that's one of the reasons why I like having these conversations, because these conversations actually give context. One of the schools.
I don't want to talk. Sorry, if I could do this. I don't want to talk about any particular organization, because I'm not critiquing those. Anyone who wants to write whatever they want, obviously can do so in this country, and I applaud that. But I do want to tell you this: that sometimes I get questions before an interview occurs. Sometimes, not always. All politics are local. Ask me the most incredible of questions that are out there. And everyone who didn't know that you and I graduated from Science High School, I'm obviously taking the opportunity to share that. But with my brother Muhammad on this call, y'all don't hold any punches with me. And I applaud you for that. I applaud you for asking difficult questions. I applaud you for making it not comfortable for anyone on this call, because that's what it's all about. And so when I did see your questions, I was like, oh my God, these are supposed to be my friends asking me some real questions. Some real questions. So for the record, I have a problem with y'all, but for the record, I love y'all because of that.
Okay,
so thank you for letting me say that.
Well, thank you for taking the time to answer them, right? Because you always answer them. You answer thoroughly, right? And on the new school buildings, right? Like the new School of Architecture and Interior Design, right? That's come up a lot. I remember having lots of conversations and arguments about vocational education. We've had conversations about just like, when is it being built, the way it's being built, like the different delays, like the leasing process, right? Like, is the school going to open up in September. What's going on with it? How do you describe the process? This is probably the most controversial of all the new buildings, because it's been critiqued on the purpose. Should we have vocational education? And there were heavy criticisms of that from both community and also from like educational media. There was also criticism of the way it was done. There have been criticisms of the way it was being built, the hiring of union workers. Is the school going to be opening in September, and what is going on with it now?
Well, a lot. You asked a lot of questions, and they all have different aspects of it. I will make sure to answer all of them, and then you just come back at me at anything that's unclear. So there's no one in our community who thought that this school was a bad idea. In fact, they've applauded since the mid 1990s. Anything dealing with vocational schools in the district, home economics, shop, which are classes we used to take, they don't exist anymore. Rooms have been converted into something other than what those rooms were, something appearing to be really reality of the past. So when I started, I had meetings with the county superintendent, Essex County superintendent of vocational schools, to say to him, the last thing I want to do is duplicate anything that you're doing. Are there any initiatives that you're doing in the vocational tech world that you would need more seats for, that you weren't able to address, that I can then open up a school that mirrors what you are doing? It's not about competing with anybody. It is about working collectively to help and assist students. And that's where we came up with a number of areas: culinary arts, and so we opened up Newark Vocational, which focuses on culinary arts, travel and tourism, and printing, graphic arts, things of that nature. Um, so now I have to find a school building. So the Newark Public Schools and all of the what are called School Development Authority schools in New Jersey, former Abbott schools, we're not allowed to build our own school building at all. The only way that we can open up a new building is if we do and get into a lease agreement. Either somebody buys the building for us and gives it to us, or somebody who owns the building leases it to us. So
Mm.
155 Jefferson Street was a building that we've leased. It is not our building. It only becomes our building when we get the keys. So the owners of that building have been and are working extremely hard at getting the school ready for students to attend. The issue of delays and anything that is of their control is theirs. We have nothing to do with anything related to them and their efforts. Anyone who wants to work with our schools has to, in fact, follow state law with regards to who they hire and the quality of work that they do. But making it very clear, I start paying the bills of that lease when I actually have the building. When am I
Mm.
going to have the building? Well, I wanted it in September of 2023. I'm days before September of 2024. So obviously, it's not in the horizon right about now. Our objective is to announce when the school will be opening. I have thousands of students who have indicated to me that a school that focuses on plumbing, HVAC, and helping kids become electricians is something that they want. I will be opening up 240 seats to this school. It'll be students that will be learning the three trades freshman year. After, around May of freshman year, they will declare which one they will study sophomore, junior, and senior year. In sophomore year, they become apprentices of my plumbers, electricians, and HVAC experts. So they will learn with Newark Public Schools employees how to do those trades. From junior to senior year, we will be able to hire them as our interns. So during the school day, they'll be studying the work that we are doing. And then after school hours, assist us as interns, learning the trade with who? Our own trade people. Let me make it clear. These are not students who are taking anybody's job. These are students who are working alongside our very best so that they become our very best when they graduate from high school. Our goal in the 10-year strategic plan is to create a self-sustaining. Are you able to hear me? A self-sustaining
We hear you now.
organization. Yeah, self-sustaining organization. I have all these people who love me calling me about everything going on this call. So you gotta wait a second. So our strategy is to create a self-sustaining organization. And so if I create a plumber, I can then hire a plumber because I need plumbers to help me in my school buildings. So that's the strategy there. HVAC, plumbers, and electricians. That's what I'm creating. And so anybody who's out there who has who's a contractor, we're going to be able to create for you a number of positions that you'll be able to hire simply by the work that we're doing in our schools. So anyone who wants to partner with us in this space, considering it ain't open yet, we obviously are welcoming you to, you can reach out to me. You can get my information through the district's website, or call me at 973-733-7333 so that we can actually see if you can partner with us. I already have a number of people that are working with us, but guess what? I can't hire 240 plumbers, electricians, and HVAC experts. There are going to be companies out there who need these incredible kids from Newark to work for them. We're going to teach them the importance of having a union earning job. We're going to teach them the importance of protecting themselves in the workplace so that ultimately those who want to become engineers get to do that. And those who want to work in these trades get to do just that.
So what you're saying is that even in the school, right? Like they graduate from it, they have the choice to go into the trades that are lucrative and that are needing people right now, right? Like I remember talking to Deputy Mayor Rahman Mohammed, and he has been very huge on trying to get trades and the importance of it. He said that there were certain mistakes that he would not have made earlier in his life if he knew that he had access to be able to make, like plumbers make $80 an hour, right? To be able to do that. And what you're also adding is that on top of that, people can, if they choose to graduate from this program, they've entered, they have a trade, but if they want to become an engineer, they can become an engineer. They can go to college. It doesn't preclude them from being able to do these things. It just gives them another avenue by which they can make living wages after they graduate from high school.
Yeah, so think about it. The other thing is we're being strategic where we're placing these programs. Carpentry is 311. Want to become a carpenter, Barringer is your school. If you want to become
We losing?
a cook, you want to learn
He's having connection
culinary
issues.
arts, Newark Vocational.
Y'all want to roll. I need him
If
to
you
jump in.
wind up wanting to be an HVAC expert, a plumber, an electrician, you go to Newark High School of Architecture and Interior Design.
Okay, so the schools are even being strategically placed in different sections of the city.
You don't have to go to the school closest to you. You can automatically get into the school that is consistent with what you want to do and become. So when the enrollment process opens on November 2nd, everyone will learn what schools are open for next school year. So September 25, 26 doesn't start in September. It starts on November 2nd, where students get to witness at my all schools fair held at Newark Vocational High School at 10 a.m. They can learn about all of the new schools that we're offering, all of the schools that exist in Newark that are providing education for students, and students can begin to figure out in early November where they can actually commit to schools that they feel can help them. It's information that parents will get, information that students will get, so that they get ready for the next school year. Announcements will occur in mid-April as to where students are matched.
So you're saying that in November, one of our guests, Michelle Middleton, asked, how do parents how do they even know about these meetings? How do they know about the November meetings? How do they know about where the messages for these new schools opening up?
Yeah, it's a great a great question. You could always go on Newark Enrolls. That is a choice for all students, is the mantra of the work that we're doing there. That's always providing up-to-date information. For anyone who's interested in attending our schools for next school year, November 2nd is when we launch the application. It launches at 3 p.m. My all schools fair will be, as I already shared, at Newark Vocational High School. The application window closes on, I'll tell you right now, you're getting this information live, John. Um, the all schools, the high school application or application to any of our other schools actually closes on at 11:59 p.m. on February 7th. And on April 18th is when we announce where all the matches are made. So everyone will know in April where their children will be attending, if in fact they're choosing to have their child attend any of our schools. Anyone who's interested in any of our schools could also go to Newark Enrolls Now. It's always difficult to get into your school of choice when your school of choice has already been chosen by all of the students, and really there isn't any room there. So anyone who wants to come to us now could go through the Newark Enrolls process. You may need to, if it's for high school, obviously go through a process of completing some tests, getting interviewed. It is possible to get into any of our high schools today. It is not impossible. It's just we want everyone to get the best chance of getting in, and that always occurs during the window of November to February.
So Newark Rolls is something that people use all year round, but from November to February is really where the push is to get people involved, to get them on the site, and to get them to these open houses, and especially the one at Newark Vocational, which is the open houses for the high
So
school.
yeah, so November 2nd is when we share all of the schools. And so that every school has their own showcase where you get to go to their respective schools. The reason why I talk about the window of November to February is because we then launch a lottery. It doesn't matter what day you actually completed the application. It just matters that you completed an application. After February 7th, that is when all of the work with regards to making sure that all of the data that is in the system is as clear as it's needed to be, so that when we actually go forward with the lottery, that every student actually is enrolled in the school of their choosing. So it's a process that we do, but there's a window of time that is for the following school year, that we ask those who are interested to go through.
No, I know that we're running close to the end of our time, but there's an issue that we constantly want to update on. We've talked to you about the many times about the issue at Global Studies and larger issues of race relations within the city. I know that there's also been Title IX suits within the city. So we're talking about both racial discrimination, and we're talking about discrimination based on gender. I know those are things that the city is dealing with. Now, can you give us a statement on where we are in dealing with issues, especially in issues of Newark, with issues of racial equality, the racial harassment, or sexual harassment that take place?
Yeah. So uh, obviously, knowing that things that are involved in litigation kind of prohibit me to get into greater detail. Um, One of the most important points that I would want to raise on issues of race is that our city has gone through so much over time. No one needs to tell Brother Muhammad anything about that. And any of the folks who are listening who have gone through some of our most difficult times clearly understand it as well. Our city is the strongest whenever there is a crisis, and our city is always greater when everyone comes together. Senses and issues of race have a tendency to divide across race for many reasons that perplex us even today. We have no tolerance and no time for anyone to be disrespectful to anyone for reasons of race, for how they speak, where their parents come from, or who they love. We just have no time for it. We also know that issues in particular of race is one that everyone tries to stay away from. And that's part of what continues to perpetuate it as a problem. And who better to solve it if adults can't fix it than to focus on our students? At the Newark School of Global Studies, that was the purpose of the school, to actually create in our student body ambassadors that we would shepherd into our high schools to teach students about the importance of valuing each other and respecting one another's lives, that together we make things better. So we know that there were incidents regarding students in particular that have been addressed as it relates to disciplinary actions. But there are deep seated wounds in students that require us to prioritize the healing process that is involved here as well. So there's been a lot of intentional thinking and planning and action with regards to professional development so that staff are aware how to engage in conversations, administrators are aware on the importance of creating climates in schools that are consistent with the highest of expectations, and ultimately making sure that students.
It just came out, went out, but I think that it's been going out and coming right back. Zaid, speak up. Zaid, you're on mute.
I didn't realize I was muted yet because he, I, I, I was in and out, so I haven't really been as present in this particular conversation as I wanted to be. But he was getting at global, and global is there's still a lot in the air about what happened at global. So I'm glad he's at least acknowledging that difficulty, because that's that that should not have played out the way it did. So let him finish.
And to make sure that students are aware that schools are supposed to be safe havens where no type of disrespect of any sort is where it's supposed to originate from, because it doesn't. It's not expected to be. And definitely, if it arises in schools, that we address it immediately.
I think one of the things that, as a teacher, one thing that was highlighted, has always been there in terms of, but I think what's been highlighted over the last few years is the use of HIB and the HIB like harassment, intimidation, and bullying within schools. It just made it, even for me as a teacher, when there were certain incidents within my own classroom, to be able to like literally have students talk directly to someone who was in charge of HIB for mediation, so that there are people who could have, like, I would have a conversation as a teacher and then refer them to a conversation if it was more serious, if there were some things that like needed some level of professionalism in terms of counseling, because I think that these issues are needed at multiple levels. But I do appreciate the way that HIB has been beefed up, or at least the perception. And maybe that is only my own perception. But my perception was that it was a concerted effort to empower HIB and harassment, intimidation, and
Yeah,
bullying.
you're absolutely right on this topic. It has been intensified. So we have an incredible HIB coordinator for the entire district, and then there's an obvious HIB specialist in every single one of the schools that undergoes intensive training, not only on matters of HIB, but in the quite distinction of Title IX, so that we have experts in every single one of our schools that not only can assist in ameliorating it, in identifying it, but also in documenting it so that it funnels up through the organization, so that we intensify more professional development for our staff members and protect our kids.
Yeah, because I've always thought that a lot of it is just intense professional development needed, right? Like, and from the top down, that just needs to be a priority. Whether it be the professional development things that we like as a teacher, there was certain professional development that I had to take at the end of the year, and by seeing certain videos, there was certain professional development. People who came into the school to have certain conversations, and also professional development on when to and how to utilize the resources in the schools, because I think too often there were many teachers who people would say something and they would ignore it, they would not hear it, they would not know, like, no, this is the protocol that you have to deal with this because these are inflammatory issues that can undermine a school, right? So I know I've had those conversations with both students and also referring to students to our HIB process within our own school, that have been very effective in terms of being able to deal humanely and effectively with incidents before they become very critical or aren't dealt with, right? Because a lot of times, if they're not dealt with or dealt with wrong, that's what makes things blow up. Zaid, you were saying something. You were.
No. He actually addressed it already. So y'all can continue your flow.
Okay, so so that's one of those things where, like, and looking at what happened before and what are those things that I'm seeing both on Title IX issues and on HIB issues, in terms of that the level of professional development is always essential, right? On that.
Yeah, so when we do that, we heightened awareness so that people can understand that things that people tolerate should not have been tolerated. Sometimes what happens is when you intensify professional development, it awakens some and creates other norms of what is tolerated in schools, as well as heightening everyone's awareness of not allowing things to happen and not think that aren't any consequences to it.
Yeah, and especially important in our political climate, because I mean, I have seen personally that because of the political climate, where so many things that are inflammatory can be said at a national level, that filters down into kids thinking that they're cool by saying certain things at a local level that's of greater intensity than I've seen it in the past. So having that more intense professional development, having HIB in place, having a playbook where if a teacher hears something, they know specifically the procedure to follow. They know that it's not something to be tolerated. I think that pushing the onus on that becomes incredibly important.
Yeah.
In finishing up, there's throw out to debate. Academic debate, high school debate, clearly was important to me. It was important to you, still important to me, and still important to you. I know that we have a debate as a curriculum thing. Many debaters say that academic high school debate is the most important thing that they've done academically because it served as the basis for everything else. What is your relationship with debate? And what has been your personal relationship with debate, and what do you think that others can get from the experiences that you had?
So, as you're aware, I graduated from Science High School. I was on the debate team for 4 years. 1987. I wound up telling this to one of my students at Speedway Elementary School when I started, that I was the 1987 New Jersey State Debate Champion with my debate partner, Terrence Davis. And the kids started bawling, laughing over by the window. And I was like, "What's so funny?" He said, "You said 1987. I said, "Well, what's so funny about that?" He goes, "My parents weren't even born yet." So the idea that debate, the art of it, is understood today to create some important impacts is so profound. Debate taught me so much. Obviously, I always give credit for everything that I am to my mom, but my teachers, my high school debate coach, Brent Ferran, super critical towards um, a lot of what I know and how there are things that I do, not only organizing myself in thinking, in definitely in the argumentative aspects of what is uh, debate. currently right now as the superintendent of schools, I'm really proud because even though no one has actually publicly said this, it is our best estimate that the largest middle school debate program in these United States is right here in Newark Public Schools. So a big shout out to all of my debate coaches at the high school and elementary level, and obviously to all of the debaters in both elementary and high school. Dennis Filbert is the speech coach over at Central High School. And oh my goodness, he has created some of the most incredible stars, not only in New Jersey, but throughout the United States of America. He has been and is absolutely incredible. Because of his efforts, we're building programs again at Arts High School. We're building programs throughout the high schools, really having an opportunity, whether it's a new school or a school that's been here for decades, really providing students an enriched experience. You very well know that Science High School tied for the championship in policy debate last year. We've done it a couple of times. We hadn't done it in a number of years, and they were able to do that. So to provide debate as an experience to all of our students is definitely consistent with what I believe and what we're actually doing today. And I am so proud of the work that is occurring, so proud of the students who actually can get college scholarship simply by debating in college, and they learn that in no other place than in Newark. We have our students leading major college programs all across this country, and I'm so equally proud of all of them.
Well, thank you so much for coming out with us today. Right, when we ask our question about like our favorite hip hop artist, individual, group, we know now that it has been, and forever will be Ja Rule. Right, like that is
That's it.
he is your dude. Right, like we understand.
That's it. That's it.
Right, absolutely. So,
Holla!
like, anything else you want to ask?
No,
I just
I
want to
actually I
thank. Oh,
want to
sorry.
talk. I want to get hold of y'all off air about a debate proposition. I think y'all are both love. My favorite debater was the great Malcolm X, and next year is his centennial, right? So we need to have another kind of conversation about something to lift up. So no, I'm not going to add him because we way over time. I know we
Yes,
got guests.
true.
Well, I do want to say Malcolm X Shabazz is celebrating his 100th birthday. We're going to be doing some incredible things at our a great high school named after him
We
this
got to
year,
talk.
and I
Let's
think it's
talk.
a brilliant idea to bring about a debate moment, given his incredible life. So, my brother, I do look
and
forward
his
to
daughter
talking to
is
you about two topics, and now we'll add debate as that second
and
one. So I
and
appreciate
and
you
his
for that.
daughter is an advisor to the Newark Public Schools.
Yes, she is. She is
That's
the
art.
provost to
That's
our
really
school
awesome. That's my
district,
art.
and
Yes.
we appreciate her immensely for
Mhm.
everything that she does. And sometimes she listens, so I'm reminded I have to call her. So I'll be doing that as soon as we drop this call.
Okay. And finally, very, very briefly, the video for you when you were a senior in high school debating Princeton, it was found and surfaced. Can you release it? Can we see it?
Oh yeah, let me tell you. So I don't have it on me right now, but I just for the record, I used to be a lot smaller than what I am right now. And I don't mean by my height. So a little kind of like in the 175 area. So we'll make sure that we get it to you in one way or fashion. Okay.
All right. Take care, man. Good luck.
I
Drink.
appreciate
Get
you all.
rest.
Thank you for doing what both of you and this entire organization does for our city and for those who care about it. I applaud you.
All right.
Indeed.
Well, thank you, man. Eat
Indeed.
well, drink with water, get some water, get some rest.
Appreciate it. Bye.
All right. Peace. All right. So that is the segment on All Politics Are Local. We have our next segment in the background. It is August. And as I says, it is Black,
Alcohol.
right? And Black August is always important because we have to remember and understand that the United States has political prisoners. And I think that is, I think that we cannot say that enough. We cannot remind people of that enough, because people fight for our freedom, and we have to remember what they have sacrificed, and keep fighting for basic justice for people who have fought for us.
Shep has got the weapon in his left hand, right? That's the order of the day, right? And I want to welcome both of you. Tone, this is your first time joining us. Welcome to All Politics Logan. I apologize for the lateness of the segment, but we're gonna get in what we need to get in. And Shep is no stranger to our space. One of our generals from the original party in New York chapter, right? And has been stewarding, a whole new generation and trying to figure out how to pick up some of this work. We talk about CurbFest. CurbFest is this concept, this community-based organizing concept to lift up our freedom fighters on the heels of Black August going into the fall. And it started in New York, and it's just grown to other cities. Shep, take us to school real quick on just what CurbFest is and why it's so important.
Yeah, peace, everyone. If we say free them all. CurbFest actually started in Philadelphia.
Oh, that's right. I stand corrected. That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
All right. It basically came out of a concept, or actually a history in Philadelphia, with the way the row houses are set up. What they used to do, the artists used to do, musicians I'm talking about, they would perform on the porches, throughout the city on those certain blocks. So out of that, during the Russell Maroon Schultz campaign, just prior to him being liberated from prison, yes, his son, Russell Maroon III, came up with an idea that if we could do live performances by performing artists, musicians on the porches, well, why don't we change that and put DJs on the blocks and use the DJs to bring in the younger folks in the community and the basic parts of the community to educate them on our political prisoners. So in 2021, we actually picked 4 different blocks or sites. We had 4 different DJs in the community. We dedicated each block to a certain amount of political prisoners. And when folks would go to one block to listen to the music and jam and everything, they would get information on those political prisoners. And then we provide them with a map to go to the other 3 locations. So it worked out very well, and it culminated with everyone gathering at Malcolm X Park in Philly. And we had a big gathering there. So that was in Philly in 2021. In 2022, it spread to Boston and New York, and Harlem in particular, and also, of course, Philly continued it. Then in 2023, it expanded to Baltimore, Boston, of course, again, and we moved to Brooklyn in New York, and Philly, definitely had a CurbFest in 2023. So this year we moved to approximately 7 different cities. So it's spread. We're looking forward to Newark coming on board. I think you're supposed to come on next year. But I'm going to turn it over to Sister Tone to give you an update on.
Before you go to Tone, Shep, before you go to Tone, though, because this is a teaching platform, I want you to lift up who Maroon was. The folks who do not know who Russell Maroon Schultz was, I want you to lift up who he was, because he was indeed one of our, beloved generals. Just real quick, and then we shift over.
Absolutely. Maroon was one of our elders. He was a member of the Black Panther Party and also the Black Liberation Army. He was captured fighting for the liberation of our people. And he actually escaped a couple of times because folks don't know that's the duty of anyone who's captured.
Yes, sir.
Anyone who's captured has to escape. And that's why the name came, like you just said, the Implacable Maroon. And so, he was a long-time organizer even before the Panther Party. So we miss Maroon and we carry his legacy on. And you can go and there's actually a new book coming out on, that his family has put out
Yes, I'm have
uh,
Sharon on in the fall. Yes.
right. So look forward to that.
Yeah. Well, Maroon did 49 years in prison,
Yep.
over 30 in solitary confinement, and never took a step backwards.
And was definitely a victim of medical neglect, elder abuse,
Absolutely.
malpractice, all those things that most of our political prisoners, matter of fact, all of them are undergoing and have undergone throughout the history of their capture.
Indeed. Now, Tone, what you going? Come on in and jump on this table, right? Let's eat from some of your plate for a minute. Talk to us, darling.
Peace, everyone. Thanks for having us on. We are super excited to talk about CurbFest. It is an extremely important program, and it demonstrates interconnectedness between like intergenerational movement, different folks who believe in justice, and the liberation of our political prisoners. And so this is a very important topic, and we're really happy to be here. One of the things I want to mention about the Boston CurbFest, which will happen on August 31st, it's at 122 DeWitt Drive, which is in Roxbury, Malcolm X's Roxbury in Boston.
That's right.
And so one of the things that it's interesting, one of your speakers, the professor, was talking about debates. We will have a debate at the Boston CurbFest. When we
Really?
Oh yes. When we did our symposium, we took a survey and the people were really excited about the debates. It's an excellent educational tool, so we will repurpose it at the Boston CurbFest. But some of the things that is important to understand about CurbFest and its mission in Boston, we have two major purposes. One is to educate the public about what the political prisoners did. So not just who they are and not just why they're incarcerated, but also what they did in community. Right. We think that's important to connect with, to teach this Black radical peace tradition, and so people can embrace and feel connected to that. We also will provide a pipeline to onboarding for the campaigns to liberate them. Some political prisoners have campaigns, others do not. And so we want to ensure that people who are interested and able to support, they understand the different ways in which they can support, and we provide like a mentoring or shadowing program where they can have support in helping out so we can increase the capacity of the campaigns. So this was a very concerted effort to ensure that CurbFest is not just an event, but it's also in service to the work that we're doing for our political prisoners.
Let me just say a couple things real quick, then I'm gonna come back at you for some goodies. Right. First, I'm excited to hear about the whole notion of debate at the CurbFest. That's fascinating. I'm loving that. Right. And you mentioned, of course, Malcolm. That he lived on 72 Dale Street. That house is still there. Your nephew Ronell is still in that house, right, with his family, right. And he learned debate when he was in prison in Massachusetts. In fact, his cell has been converted into a library at that prison. Right. There's a whole lot of history right there that's just important to unpack in terms of Malcolm's Boston levels. But as the young head in this conversation, what got you in this? Because you got professional credentials and all that. Some of us who know you could be doing something totally different. But what got you riding with our revolutionary roughnecks like this? Tell your story for a minute.
Yeah, sure. So that's also assuming that I'm not a revolutionary, which and it's actually a credit to our elders, right? So I had the honor and pleasure of being educated at community school and being taught by revolutionaries who kind of instilled this in me in this oral tradition that our people have. Also, I mean, to me, it's just logical, right? We know that political prisoners were targeted because they were effective, right? They also were people who were doing work towards our liberation. So how dare we not engage in such work? I just don't think that makes sense. And for folks who are looking to support, having pride in oneself, having love for the people and love for our community, I mean, it's a natural pathway, in my opinion, to engage in this work in a very multifaceted way. So I think all people, regardless of where your skill sets lie, if you are interested in justice, if you are interested in our traditions, if you want to see people, society be in a better place tomorrow, then we must engage the work, and this is part of the work.
100%. And that is just the both of you. Now we're in a space now where And we've always had this issue with trying to educate our community and mobilize our community around our political prisoners, right? Some are known, some are hardly known at all, right? And other freedom fighters that we currently have our hands on. Mumia is gotten international resonance, right? Imam Jamil has got an incredible history that makes his case stand out. But then there are other political prisoners who the community knows a lot less about, right? So why don't we lift up, and both of you jumping on this, right? Some of the other political prisoners whose names are not nearly as familiar to our community that we need to help our community get clear on.
I like to throw in Brother Kojo's name, actually coming from New Jersey. We have other meetings that we do. We just recently spoke to him. He's in his 80s and an elder as well as the rest of them. And so, folks should definitely get it. We just recently were able to liberate Sundiata Acoli from New Jersey prisons. And
49 years.
yes, we need to get Kojo out as well. And he doesn't really have a campaign that's that extensive. We're also building on Reverend Joy Powell in New York. Folks don't know who she is. And the last one I like to throw up is Kenny Zulu Whitmore in Louisiana, who's in Angola prison. He's one of the 4 last Panthers that's still incarcerated. And he was part of the formation there. Most people know about, some people know about the Angola 3.
Right.
Kenny is still there. And the last remaining person in Angola 3, King, Brother King, is still working to get him out. So they'll all be releasing. And he's also in his 80s. So we have to bring them home.
Yeah. I would also love to uplift Abdul Aziz, Hanif Shabazz Bey, Malik Bey, Joseph Bowen. There are a number of them, Fred Burton. And I want to say that people are familiar with H. Rap Brown in general, but they're not familiar with his name now, being Imam Jamil Al-Amin. And we want to make sure that he's not forgotten because of his embracing his faith. Also, I would be remiss if I didn't uplift millennial political prisoners like Josh Williams out of Ferguson. So this is something where people are still being impacted by this to this day. I know many of the folks that we are embracing are elders, but there are also people throughout all the generations that are political prisoners.
One more thing, like we mentioned Black August, and we think of George Jackson. There are a lot of political prisoners now who, like George Jackson and like Malcolm X, became political after they were captured. And people like Kevin Rashid Johnson and definitely Kwame Shakur, who are doing a lot of organizing on the inside and working with us on the outside, dealing with those conditions that exist inside of these gulags and dungeons of America.
And Rashid, when we had Nation Time and had the Panther out for a minute, that's years ago. That's how long he's been in. It's the 90s, right? Revolutionary artists, we have his art all over the place, right? And by virtue of their organizing inside, they're doing hard time. They ain't doing soft time. They're doing hard time and facing some very difficult conditions. If y'all wanted to lift up some of the harshness, some of the medical challenges that some of our freedom fighters are going through, take a minute and lift that up for a minute, because folks need to really appreciate that. Lives are on the line.
Yeah, we can go to right now, with the climate change and the heat waves that are going on. We have folks, not just political prisoners, but a lot of our elders in particular, that are suffering and even dying due to the heat inside of these prisons. Not to mention just the medical neglect that I mentioned earlier. We know what happened during COVID. Thousands of our prisoners died in those prisons unnecessarily by COVID, which was brought in by the guards nonetheless. That's who brought it in, because families were not allowed to do the visits. So that's where it came from. And they weren't getting treated. And, we deal with hypertension on a long scale, dealing with cirrhosis and cancer and just a whole variety of diseases. And it's said that prisoners lose anywhere from 10 to 20 years of their lives just by being in there, particularly if you're in solitary confinement. And we don't even want to talk about the diet that's in there, the garbage that they're feeding them, and the water that's really trash and toxic. So there's so many conditions there.
Yeah, I think it's also important to uplift some mental health, right? These are not this is not an experience that people go to be improved, right? Like, and the conditions are very oppressive, and so we want to humanize our political prisoners. We want to remember that they are in fact people and deserving of the rights there.
You know, I have to mention Brother Kamal Siddiqui, who both myself and Tone have been dealing with his case for a couple of years now. But after Maroon was liberated, we went to Kamal, who's
Right.
the last New York Panther. Folks that have been around for a while know when the Jericho movement started in '98, there were 20 political prisoners in New York. You know,
That's right. He's the
most
last
of them Panthers. And we've been able to liberate a lot of them now. Unfortunately, some have died in the prisons.
That's right.
And even like I have this poster on this side, you have these are some of our prisoners that actually died in captivity. There's a whole list of them. We just recently lost Ed Poindexter, and unnecessarily.
50. He was going into his 53rd year in prison, and we lost his co-defendant several years before that.
Right.
Yeah. And Tone, I appreciate you raising the question of mental health. Right? Your generation seems to be very in tune with that, right? What sharpened that for you as a younger organizer for your generation's sake?
Yeah, I mean, just this element of embracing humanity, right? Like, despite all the things, just thinking about us as people, and in this abolitionist ethic, kind of reimagining a world where we are in fact people. And I also want to uplift one of my mentors, who passed earlier this year, and Baba Sekou Odinga, who spoke with me extensively about his experience. And he was very candid about the things that he was experiencing mentally. And it just gave me some insights to what that experience might be like. And imagine, 33 years, look how long these folks are being incarcerated for service to the people. So we cannot forget about them. We must work in their interests, and we must uplift, again, their humanity.
So, one thing I should throw in is that what Tone mentioned earlier about knowing what they did before they got, captured. In the community. Look at Matulu Shakur, medicine, acupuncture, the whole healthcare system. Okay, we can look at Bashir Ahmed and even Jalil.
Where is he? I grew up with Bashir's family. That was getting personal, deeply personal. Right. And we should have lost him inside.
Right. And then we look at brothers like Herman Bell, who we do have liberated. He and Jalil did the Victory Gardens. When we dealt with the food security, which we're still carrying on right now. We're dealing heavily into food security right now. We have a big national meet coming up on the 20th online for folks who are Black farmers. And we just won a big decision. I know people saw it, but I think it was $2.2 billion was awarded to the Black farmers after a long fight. And there's an issue in Georgia where 18 Black landowners were being threatened to take their land away by a railroad company. And they just recently, yesterday, won a battle in a hearing to stop, them from using that land. So it's being appealed, of course, by the millionaires, but they're still trying to go forward with building that railroad. So there's a lot of battles going on that front. We say free the land, we talk about keeping the land too. So that's important. And definitely we need to learn how to feed ourselves. Something else that came out of Kwame, in the prison that he's in Indiana. They have a garden now. It's there. So we have to look at all those things. And definitely our youth. I see Brother Hakeem here. I know he's used hip-hop culture as a weapon for years. I'm not trying to prove your age.
When he was a youngin'?
He's not a youngin' anymore.
I appreciate that. Because, anyway. But in talking about the
street organizations now, getting them to be more political as where we came from back when we were young.
That's right.
When you mentioned that the victory the Black farmers recently secured with the $2.2 billion, I posted that up on my Facebook, and I had some people who decried it and said that they're owed $200 billion, that's nothing, and I'm like, man, $2.2 billion yeah, it's a drop in the bucket to what's old, but let's take it and strategize on how to get the rest. But let's not turn this down. Let's not like poo-poo this. What do you think about that, Shep? And Tony?
You're absolutely correct. I mean, they owe us. One of our people said they stole us, they owe us.
Oh, that's right.
So we take that reparations on all different levels. It ain't just about getting some payment. It's about getting that land and different things we have to look at. It's not about money. But we should be paying taxes for generations, as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot to look at. But yeah, we take what we can get out of that and tell that to those farmers who are struggling and don't have anything.
That's right.
You know, 500,000 isn't good for you. You don't need it. You should get more. Nah, you take it and then get more.
Yeah, I would actually also lean into that. So those people who may have difference of opinion, I would challenge them to get involved in the work so folks can get what they deserve. Right?
100%.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
and this is where, our organizing
That's the
teachers.
mic dropper, Hakeem.
Sir.
100%. We got to, I haven't connected with him directly, but amongst the Panther Cubs, the work that Omawale is doing with Black Fest and then land in New York, we have to build this conversation out some more.
Yeah, I'll be there tomorrow to the Black Veg Fest in Brooklyn. They have land
that's some great stuff.
Black Liberation Farm. So
Yes, we got to do that.
Are you guys going to make it out to 24 hours apiece next weekend? So we have all.
Probably not aware of it, right? Shep's been there before, but Tony's probably not aware of it. So break it down for the audience and break it down for Tony so she knows.
24 hours of peace, love, unity, safety, having fun is an event that we've been doing in Newark, New Jersey since 2010, every year except for two, COVID year in 2018. But it's what Shep was talking about earlier, using culture as a weapon, culture as a tool to organize people and to push peace, love, unity, safety, having fun. So the mayor, Roger Baraka, has understood what hip hop culture, the power of it could do. He's invested in this event, and it's grown to be about 20,000 people that come out through the 24 hours. And it's literally 24 hours from 6 p.m. on Friday to 6 p.m. on Saturday, straight through. And we use the rap, the culture, the singing, the dancing, but then
Very
officers
similar to shut a block down.
Yeah, right now we shut like 6 blocks down.
Go ahead, right? There you go.
6 blocks down. We got almost 200 vendors, sell out everything. It's off the chain. But the Office of Violence Prevention and Trauma Recovery, along with the Brick City Peace Collective, do activations on ground and bring people into the year-round work that the mayor has set up. And 24 hours of peace is just a way to push peace, love, unity, safely having fun. Now, here's the thing. It got created in 2010 largely as a celebration for Black August. That's why it's in August.
The parallels are there. The parallels are definitely there. Tell her who you got on the lineup.
Well, this year it's all women. We're celebrating women for peace. We're uplifting women. Without women, we are nothing. So we got to let people know. We got Lady Luck, Roxanne Shante, Rod Digger, Sunshine Anderson, Yo-Yo, Moni Love, and the Lady of Rage, Maya, Asian Doll, Juicy 2 Times, Big Biggie, Taseki, Lady London, Maya, Honey Baby, excuse me, Maya. I don't think I said Maya. Yeah, it's crazy. That's next week, 23rd, 24th, Friday and Saturday, 24 hours apiece.
I'm looking for a flyer, brother Hakeem.
I got you. I'll make sure you get it. Yeah, I got you. That's on Central Avenue between South 10 and West Market.
Brother Hakeem, that sounds amazing. Actually, I did read about that. I read about it last year, and I thought I learned a little bit more. I want to say that this is an opportunity to encourage the folks who attend to continue on by attending the CurbFest. Right? So both Boston and New York have opportunities in that they can go to New York, which is very easy, and then the Boston CurbFest, there will be a free bus taking people from New York City, Brooklyn, specifically to Boston and back to Brooklyn. So those who are in attendance should absolutely be apprised of the CurbFest, and they should attend it, to the degree that they are able. Absolutely. But thank you for informing me. I might just pull up.
Yeah, come on, let's go. Let's do it.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah. Big Shep. Big bro right there.
No, I know that we have come. We will have to have both of you back on to continue these conversations. I know that we've uh, come out, toward the end of the segment. But tell us give us again, like what is going on, when is it, how to go, how to get there, CurbFest. Tell us about the where and the when.
Brother Shep, I'll leave it to you.
Well, what I would say to you is basically, if you go to our sites, you can get information. Just look up CurbFest, and you'll find the website, which will connect you to all the cities that's taking place. It'll show you some of the prisoners that we've been talking about and more. Giving you some of their bios, of course, the contact information, and you get the flyers on those 7 cities that I mentioned. So that you can contact the people there and not just go, but help them organize. Get in touch ahead of time. Help them give out the flyers, set up the tables, get the DJs and the music, and just be involved. And then help spread the word. Of course, bring the community into it. The music can only bring in but so many folks from the neighborhood. So if we want to really get the hood involved, got to go in the hood.
That's
Got
right.
to do that hand-to-hand, face-to-face contact, and get off of these Zoom meetings. They're important for getting information out, but we got to get in the street. We have to get back in the street.
Yeah, I'll say it's curbfest.com. Thank you. Yeah, please feel free to come out in the CurbFest near your city. If you're interested in partaking, as Brother Shep said, support the efforts, right? Each one, teach one. Where you are, spread the word. Get involved and make this, unite our communities. So thank you for having us on, and we look forward to seeing you at our CurbFest.
Jonathan asked the ritual question.
All right, so we are a hip hop oriented program. We always ask this ritual question. Who is your favorite hip hop artist, individual or group, or just who you're rocking with right now?
For me, I would pick, I have to say 2, and they're both Panther Cubs. I would definitely have to mention the late Tupac Shakur.
Yes, sir.
And as far as Cub that's still doing music, Paris is still out in Oakland, putting out revolutionary music videos and hip hop and so forth. So I would say Paris.
I realized that Paris was a Cub.
Yep. Both of them were Cubs.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm always a Tupac fan.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No worries. I would say I'm always a Tupac fan, Tupac for life. And those living, I would say a Nipsey Hussle. Well, he's passed on. Sorry, Nipsey is passed, but his birthday was just yesterday, actually. And I would say the living person is Big Crit. Shout out to Mississippi.
Wow.
All right.
Straight ahead.
All right. Thank you so much again for coming on, and we definitely have to have you on again. And thanks for letting us know also about your website, and hopefully people will go to it as well.
Thank you so much.
All right.
All right, y'all. All power. Free them all.
Free them all.
All right.
Good stuff.
Absolutely.
Good stuff. And it's growing. You can't talk about organizing and not do it.
Right.
COVID that made some of us lazy. You still got to get in the street. And that's going to be real important for the selection of John that we all worried about too.
Fair. Okay, so okay, man, I've been following you and some of the conversations you've been having surrounding the Olympics, hip hop, and breakdancing.
Yeah.
And even though Australia owes us apology, a collective apology, the whole country, Australia should just be apologizing for what they subjected the rest of the world to. They don't need to apologize to Black people. They need to apologize to the world, because that was a travesty. That was disrespect. And they need to be like, hey, Australia, I'm shaking my head. They should lose tourism dollars over that. We should be talking about maybe sanctions until they represent hip hop correctly. It's not like they didn't have real hip hop heads in Australia because hip hop is worldwide. But like, oh my God, you know. But in spite of that, right, you have shown a great appreciation for the Olympics and that the Olympics had breakdancing. What is your
Whoa, no. Nah.
I read it wrong?
Nah,
I read you wrong?
Yeah, you read that wrong. You read that wrong.
Okay, because I thought you were like, yo, Olympics, right?
What up, Rhino? Peace to the God, peace to the God.
Peace. What's good, man?
So 4 years ago, I did a room on Clubhouse. And when I found out that breaking was going to be in the Olympics, I went to Clubhouse and I said, so now that breaking is in the Olympics, are we going to be upset when we don't see it look like the way we right? And it stirred up the pot. It was a decent sized room. A lot of breakers, a lot of B-boys and B-girls was up in the room. Crazy Legs hopped in the room. We had some folks who had been in contact with the IOC, had got the breakdown of how things were going to go. And they were letting us know that, listen, the way they're scoring this, the way you get points, the way certain things are rolling is not going to look like your traditional breakdance competition, right? So in that, I went to work. Rappers in America aren't making music for B-boys and B-girls. Nobody's using break beats. Nobody's creating music for that, right? So I went to work and did this song called The Cypher featuring KRS-One, produced by Ron Lawrence, over a hot break beat. Did the video right there in Newark, New Jersey, downtown. It's crazy, right? To put breaking on Front Street, to be like, we need to invest in our culture. We need to own our culture. We need to be doing our culture. We're going to be mad when other people are doing our culture and it don't look like how we think it should look. That's a problem. That we only find value in things that can get us today money. We don't find value in things that give us tomorrow money. We don't invest in ourselves and maintain value in it. So then when somebody else do it, oh, it's appropriation. Oh, they want to do black culture, but they don't want to be black. Oh, the white girl from Australia, man, listen, she's doing the culture. What you doing? I'm not saying.
Did you say she's doing the culture?
She's doing the culture.
Doing the culture? What's she doing? Like, what do you mean by doing the culture?
She was trying.
She was trash. She was garbage. It was whack. However, she's doing the culture. Hey,
the bunny hop.
What black kids in America doing right now? Watching the rap that they pushing on us. They on stripper poles. Stripping ain't in the Olympics. Breaking is in the Olympics. Right. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, why aren't we into breaking, owning it, so we can show everybody what it looked like? Somebody else goes and does it and screws it up and doesn't do it right. And we are. 4 years ago, I had this room. And I told people, I'm telling you, it ain't going to look like how you want it to look. Then what you going to say? Won't you be mad now? Won't you get these corporations and these rich rappers and these record labels to invest in breakers, break organizations, so we can approach the IOC with power and go, nah, this is the way this is going. If you don't qualify, if you can't do this, that, and the third, it don't happen. And then Australia doesn't happen because we got control. But we give away control and then get mad that it don't look the way we think it should look. Sorry, we don't get to decide. Why? Because we ain't got no control. Let's get some control. And then we get to decide.
I knew it wasn't going to look like us when it made it to the Olympics. That I knew for sure. Because you see, even on all those dance shows, think about the dance shows, like America's Greatest Dancer or whatever that they had. All of the dance shows, a lot of them were Asian kids and kids from, overseas and stuff. So I knew when they started talking about the Olympics, I knew it wasn't going to look like, the back in the days. It wasn't going to look like that.
Now, he's from France. He's not from the United States.
Here.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're like, this is a French version. And he's bad. This dude.
He ill.
He was in the Olympics. If he was in the Olympics, he should be gold.
He's
He's
ill.
better anybody who was there.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of people better than anybody who was there. In the Cypher video that I talked about earlier, I went to it was a breakdance competition down here in Miami. So I went down and checked, it's hip hop. I'm going to where the real hip hop. Now I don't know what all that other stuff is. I'm going to where the real hip hop is. Breakdance competition. Big shout out to B girl Rockwell. She was in there. I mean, it was crazy. Like this and more in Miami. So we gotta, Rockefeller, B girl Rockefeller was in the building. She's a legend in the breakdance community. You know what I mean? But we gotta support that instead of supporting all this other stuff, and then we'll have say so, and we can dictate how it go down. Until then, we outsiders of our own culture.
No,
that's a problem.
Here's a question, though, right? The international nature of hip hop and breakdancing. Like I remember like going to different countries, or when I was visiting France, and they got a real hip hop scene that is indigenous to Paris, that's indigenous to France. They got their own version of it. Like Brazil got their own Brazilian hip hop, right? Like, and it is of their people. They are doing their thing, right? Like it appears like there are grassroots hip hop movements in each of these different countries, and they've taken that spirit and they made it their own. And to me, a lot of it doesn't really feel like appropriation. It feels like they have found a voice, and they got just like rockers got a band. It seems like they got their hip hop, and their hip hop talks about the things that they go through within their communities, and it's their own poetry, right? Like I don't even feel like a lot of times when I'm hearing like the French hip hop or some the Vietnamese hip hop, or like and a lot of this stuff, or Arabic hip hop, that hip hop coming out of Palestine, right? It seems like they are doing their rebellious in poetry thing. That is, it ain't us, right? Like it's poetry. Yeah. It's a spirit of rebellion. But it seems like I don't feel like they're trying to be like the woman from Australia. It was like that was like, she might as well have been singing Mammy, right? Like that was insulting. That was like, you.
That one I wasn't feeling at all.
Yeah, she was trash. She was trash.
It's insulting, right? Like that was a minstrelsy, right? Yeah. That was a minstrelsy, right? But I don't feel like, when in dealing with a lot of the hip hop that we see in other countries, it seems like that is authentic. It is from them. It is speaking their truth from their perspective. Is that also true of breakdancing? I don't know. Is that true of breakdancing?
Yeah, I would say so, because there's like breakdance competition and exhibitions all over the world. And I see like in South America, extremely acrobatic with the way they do their thing. Say it again.
Brazil and Cuba, especially.
Yeah, Brazil, Cuba.
And a lot of that seems like it's a nod to Brazil and capoeira.
So
right?
Every country gets to pick that when the Olympics comes around. Every host country gets to pick 4 events that represents them. So it was in Paris. They did breakdancing. In 2028, it's in LA. And breakdancing won't be in it because the United States has it. Right. So when you think of Paris embracing the culture of hip hop more than the United States, says a lot. Now, big shout out to DJ EFN from Drink Champs, the Who's Crazy crew, Crazy Hood, no doubt. They do it's a documentary series called Coming Home, where they go to different countries to explore hip hop there. And they've been to Cuba. They've been, I want to say, maybe it was Colombia. I think they went to Haiti. They went to Vietnam. So they were interviewing some MCs from Vietnam about their hip hop influences. And they had said that their hip hop influences mainly come from either Japan or China.
Wow.
So, and it was like South Korea, they're influenced more by another Asian country. So when they asked about the United States, it was like we were a joke to them. Like we had lost our way. We no longer keep the traditions of the real hip hop.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
They were like, yo, US, y'all sold out.
It's on.
They were listening in the future.
It's on YouTube. It's called
Coming Home.
Coming Home by Crazy Hood Productions. You can YouTube it. And the series itself is dope because you get to feel hip hop from all around the world and how they approach it. And they in some of the most rugged communities. You know what I mean? Like I'm talking about hip hop. It's like crazy.
Yeah.
And they hip hop, feed, the breakdancing, the MCing. It ain't just rapping all the time. Actually, at all, really. It's about the culture. Right.
Culture emerging out of some harsh conditions.
Well, I'm glad I brought that up, man, because I'm going to look up that documentary Coming Home. Because that's just, to me, that's fascinating. How in 40 years, a culture of rebellion that started and a culture of rebellion and questioning, right? Like aesthetically questioning. Like I think that like hip hop and the Black arts movement and a way to understand aesthetics in a way that is not the dominant culture form, right? How it started off that way, and how I just think it's fascinating the way it translates worldwide, and even the whole coming home, what we are and what we've transformed into now, and the different layers of conversation that go on in hip hop. If there's anything that was this wild over this year, is I think the books that are going to be written about Drake and Kendrick, because it was a lot more than a rap beef.
It
was really a cultural beef. And it was a culture beef that goes to the heart, I think, of what hip hop is, and the tension. And is it an art form with a questioning aesthetic, or is it a commercial aesthetic that is from the top down? What does it represent? What is it? Is it just a vehicle strictly to make money, or is it a representation of the culture and the people, right? That seeks to tell truth and contradict, right? So I thought that's just fascinating. I know we've come to the end of our show and our program, and I just want to thank our guest. Thank the superintendent of schools for coming on. To thank Shep and Tone for coming on. Hakeem, thank you for coming out again, as always, man. Having you in.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Next week is 24 hours apiece.
24 hours apiece, August 23rd and 4th, Friday to Saturday, 6 p.m. to 6 p.m. Off the chain, we celebrating women.
And where is it going to be? Where is this? Where can we just walk up and chill?
So you can just walk up and chill. Central Avenue between South 10th and West Market. Can I give a shout out to the local artists that are going to be in the building, please?
Yes.
Real quick. We got Euphony, Kanye 3X, Chosen the Guardian, Angel Blue, Bree Black, who's a violinist and is going to smash it. Okay. This woman is crazy. It's okay. King Nyla, Desire One from Temple of Hip Hop is going to come through. She Bees Music, Blue Nile, Mo from the other side of Newark. We got Nikki D, Aisha Truth. We got, of course, Sunshine Anderson, Yo-Yo, Rod Digger, Roxanne Shante, Brooklyn, Lamia, Moni Love. Of course, Maya's touching the stage around 11:30. And then that was just Friday, mind you.
Wow.
That was just Friday.
Okay.
and then Saturday, we got yoga with Jennifer Cole. We got Nikki D coming through with health and wellness. We got Queen's gonna host a poetry session. We got Lady Luck co-hosting with myself and Mitty, T-Hawk, Gail Campbell, Zara Baby, Bella Star, Zaray. We got Unicorn's gonna put together a nice little production featuring
Unicorn 151.
Unicorn 151.
You know, he used to debate for me.
Yeah, I know that. Hell yeah. So he's not performing,
too.
But
Yeah.
he's organized a nice little ensemble of females and influencers that are going to come through. Touch the
Nice.
stage around 2:30. We got Lola Brooke, Juicy 2 Times, Asian Doll, The Baddies, Big into Seki, Serena Smart, Honey Baby, River, Marlena, Leah Janae, Lady London, and that's 24 hours apiece. 23rd and 24th.
I'm glad Unicorn is involved. He's a good person. He tries to do the right thing. Highly creative. Highly creative.
Big shout out to Vibes in the City for helping to organize local artists as well as Unicorn 151. That's my guy. Yeah, they were big helps for us this year. Big shout out to them.
All right, cool, man. So thank you, man, and thank you everyone for this. Now, Rhino, you last words. What? Anything else to add to like what you?
Tomorrow at Caldwell Park in Morristown, New Jersey. I'll be there from 12 to 8 p.m. Myself, DJ Rich, DJ Mel Ski, and DJ Cut Supreme. We're going to be there. It's a family event. It's the Urban Art Festival that takes place in Morristown, New Jersey at Caldwell Park. It's a family event, so it's going to be a lot of vendors there. You can bring the kids. It's going to be a lot of food. It's going to be artwork, dancing. It's going to be a lot of performers. We got Rod Digger that's going to be there, Young Z, Rusty Chooks, Cellar Dwellers, Royal Flush, Sadiq. It's going to be a bunch of classic 90s.
Crazy.
And that's right off the train station, right?
Yeah, that's Caldwell Park tomorrow. Tomorrow, Caldwell Park, Morristown, New Jersey.
Nice.
From 12 to 8 p.m.
Is that right next to the Morristown train station? Like I can walk there?
Yeah, it is.
Like I could get off the train and just be right at the park.
Yeah, you just walk around.
Man, I wish I was up top right now. That's a hot one.
Right. Do you know a young sister out there named Tiana Kimbrough?
Tiana Kimbrough. No, but you know what? My peoples know them because they asked me about Tiana before.
She was Black Lives Matter there for a minute, trying to get her to the fold. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for all for coming out. Right. And until next week, we're going to have some people at 24 hours apiece. So we'll try to figure out how we're going to do possibly a live broadcast.
I'm saying, come on. All politics is local need to be in the building.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Live, streaming live.
Right.
I'm going to miss 2 Fridays because I'm going to be traveling. Those are my travel days to and from Cuba. So I'm gonna miss 2 shows this month. I had never missed 2 shows straight since I've been on, right? But I'm gonna be traveling. So I'm definitely gonna be frustrated that I'm gonna miss next Friday. I really want.
We'll be streaming live. That's all you'll see.
Zaire, I also wanted to say, man, happy born, Zaire.
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday, Zaire. Happy birthday, man.
You know what I mean? How's it feel to be 40?
You're trying to at my age. I'm trying to duck them, trying to slip them.
Right.
Because they start to beat me up.
Hey, so happy birthday, man.
Yeah, brother.
And everybody be careful.
One of our local legends died on my birthday. Let's always have a hard time with it. I want everybody to remember the great Bria Blackberry, Molasses McNally.
Oh man! Oh my God! Oh Lord!
Always have clouds around my birthday.
Man, we got
do a lot of gigs with her back in the day.
Definitely have to stream. We had to put Blackberry Molasses Bria up on the board next week. Like, we got we gotta celebrate her. That's oh Lord have mercy.
She's a local too. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
My baby girl. Yeah.
And until next week, man.
Peace.
August. Until next week, be safe, be careful, make a difference in somebody's life.
Peace.
Peace.